Good evening. It is Tuesday, March 17th, 6 o'clock p.m., and I am calling to order this regular meeting of the Fairbanks North Star Borough Board of Education. As we call this meeting to order, the school board would like to take this moment to respectfully acknowledge that we are residing on the traditional land of the Dene people. Our mission statement: as a community, we create supportive learning environments where all students thrive. Ms. Richardson, will you please call the roll?
Colonel Foster is excused. Colonel Campbell?
Present.
Miss Charlie is expected. Mr. Wade?
Here.
Miss Hewitt is on Zoom.
Here.
Thank you. Miss Maple?
Here.
Mrs. Hull?
Here.
Miss Julian?
Here.
Miss Carol Hubbard?
Here.
Mr. Doran?
Here.
Mr. Burgess?
Here.
Thank you. The board has a quorum.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have a music performance from North Pole High School. The North Pole High School Concert Choir will perform the national anthem under the guidance of Jenna Dredoppel, choir director, and the North Pole High School Chamber Orchestra Quartet will perform Farrakondine / Fair Isle Jig, arranged by Rune Tonsgaard Sorensen under the guidance of Kieran Kaufman, orchestra director. Ms. Dredoppel, please take it away. Dredoppel, sorry.
Oh, say, can you see what so proudly we have? Twilight's fast gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch, burst of guns streaming, and the rockets' was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled o'er the
Hans Tinklenberg. I'm a junior.
I'm Joy Rush. I'm a junior. I'm Stephen Clifford. I'm a sophomore. I'm Max Sullivan. I am a junior.
I'm Will Cotto. I'm a junior.
I'm Jesse Hamner. I'm a senior.
I'm Samuel Farrell. I'm a senior.
I'm Matthias Spex. I'm a senior.
I'm Nicholas Wright. I'm a senior.
My name is Nora Sterner, and I'm a senior.
I am Adelia Robinson, and I'm a senior.
I'm Madison Cumby, and I'm a senior.
I'm Era Andrews, and I'm a junior.
I'm Caitlin Yeager, and I'm a senior.
I'm Natalia Davidson, and I'm a sophomore.
This is just 15 members of the 36 that are in concert choir at North Pole High School. We have about 85 students in choir, so it's just a little bit. Thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Dredoppel. We'll have a little minute to set up here. And then we'll hear from the North Pole High School Chamber Orchestra Quartet under the guidance of Kieran Kaufman, orchestra director.
So this is the North Pole High School musicians from the North Pole High School Chamber Orchestra. This group will be performing a little later as a quartet at the Region 6 Regional Solo and Ensemble competition. So you'll get to hear them. You could come and hear them play in a couple of weeks again. Today we thought, because it is March 17th, it might be nice to feature some music from the Celtic sphere. So we hope you enjoy Farrakondine and the Fair Isle Jig.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaufman and the North Pole High School Chamber Orchestra Quartet. The next item on our agenda is the Excellent Educator of Excellent Educator of the Month Award. Sheridan Schuster, teacher for Ladd Elementary School, will be recognized as the Excellent Educator of the Month for March 2026. Michelle Heminger, principal, will make the presentation.
Good evening. Tonight I'm proud to recognize an outstanding Ladd Leopard educator who truly embodies what it means to make a difference. Mrs. Schuster consistently creates a classroom where every student feels valued, supported, and encouraged to grow. She also establishes strong collaborative relationships with her peers. Mrs. Schuster excels in classroom management. She understands that in order to learn, students must feel safe. To feel safe, a student must know exactly what to expect and trust Ms. Schuster will respond with a firm, kind grace at every learning opportunity, whether that be academic or social, in kindergarten and first grade. For example, last year we had a student start at Ladd that would require 2 to 4 hours of de-escalation upon entering the building before he was able to stand inside the door of his classroom. Ms. Schuster, with her kind and no-nonsense style, coaxed this student into her room every day and offered increasing levels of support with academics until the student would then run into her classroom every morning so he could give her a hug before school started. This year, when Ms. Schuster found out that her class was a K-1 split, she immediately selected this student to remain in her classroom because of the strong bond that he had formed with her. And this has led him to begin to attend all of his special services and to attempt academics that were virtually impossible last year. Ms. Schuster never gives up on kids, and they know it, they respect it, and they love her all the more for it. Beyond Ms. Schuster's classroom, she's also a highly collaborative colleague. Ms. Schuster shares ideas, supports her lower elementary team, and contributes to a strong, connected school community. It's clear that her dedication and heart for students make a lasting impact each and every day, and that her collaborative nature helped nurture her colleagues as well. Please join me in congratulating a homegrown North Pole High School graduate Excellent Educator of the Month. And then good job, and shake everybody's hand. Good job.
Okay, next on our agenda is adoption of the agenda. Consent agenda items marked with an asterisk are considered routine items not requiring public discussion by the school board. Unless removed from the consent agenda, asterisked items will be automatically approved when the agenda is adopted. Questions concerning these items should be directed to the administration before the meeting. If the superintendent or a member of the public wishes to have an item removed from the consent agenda, the request must be made to a board member any time prior to the start of the meeting. The board member has the discretion to accept or deny the request. Only a board member may remove an item from the consent agenda. If an item is removed from the consent agenda, it shall be considered separately as the last item of new business. Asterisked items will then be adopted by one single motion. Board, can I get a motion, please?
Move to adopt the agenda with consent items.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote?
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you. The agenda is adopted with consent items. Next on our agenda is public comments on reports and non-agenda items. Reminder, this portion of public comment is for non-agenda items. So if folks have something to say about the budget, that is an agenda item, and you'll have an opportunity to testify about that later. During this section of the agenda, the school board welcomes public comments on non-agenda topics. This is an opportunity for community members to be heard. The board will note the topics, though no official actions will be taken. Topics may be referred to the administration for further research and future potential action. Board members will not respond to comments or questions made by the public. Concerned citizens should first discuss matters with the superintendent or designee. After the superintendent or designee has heard the concerns, they may be brought to the board. Individual students and district personnel may not be discussed in public testimony. Please contact the district office to route concerns about individual students or district personnel through the appropriate channels. Members of the public will be given the opportunity to speak on agenda items at the time the item is introduced for action or discussion. Once the agenda is published, testifiers should email or call the school board office by 4:00 p.m. on the day of the meeting to sign up for public testimony. Students who have signed up in advance or are in the room and wishing to testify will be called upon first, followed by members of the public who have signed up in advance in the order in which they have signed up. If time remains, anyone else in person will be invited to testify until the 1-hour time limit has been reached. A sign-up sheet is available in the boardroom before the start of the meeting for those who have not already signed up in advance. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and should provide their first name, spell their last name, and state their area of residence. Are there any students in the audience who wish to speak today? I don't see anyone. Okay, so I'll go to my list. I have a list of folks who signed up in the room here, and I've got Janet Ferris.
Before I begin, I think mine is an agenda item, the proclamation for Month of the Military Child. It's under information and reports.
This is an appropriate time for information and reports.
Thank you, sir. Hello, my name is Janet Ferris. I live in North Pole, and I am the Fort Wainwright School Liaison Officer. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you today for your continued support for the Month of the Military Child. Each April, we recognize more than 1.6 million military-connected children across our nation. These students face unique challenges, including frequent moves, often every 2 to 3 years, and transitions between multiple schools throughout the academic journey. By graduation, many will have attended 6 to 9 different schools. In addition to these transitions, military children experience extended separations from parents, guardians due to deployments and training. Despite these challenges, they demonstrate remarkable resiliency and strength. This success, however, is not achieved alone. It is made possible through the support of strong school systems and committed educators. Your leadership plays a vital role in ensuring military-connected students receive consistent, equitable educational experiences. Policies that support smooth transitions, timely record transfers, and appropriate placement are essential, just as important as the welcoming school environments that you help foster, places where children feel supported from the moment they arrive. The Month of the Military Child is symbolized by the color purple, representing all branches of the military and reminding us that these children serve along every branch. Today, I want to thank you. Thank you for the commitment of supporting military families. Thank you for prioritizing the needs of military-connected students. And thank you for helping create environments where every child can succeed. We recognize April as Month of the Military Child. I encourage continued partnership and focus on the needs of these students, not just in April, but throughout the entire year. Because when we support military children, we strengthen our schools, our communities, and our future. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Ferris. That is the end of my list of folks who have signed up. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to testify on non-agenda items? Ms. Cotter, please step forward, state your name, spelling your last, give your general area of residence. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Adia Cotter, Cotter, and I live in the McGrath area. I spend a lot of time talking about history, Alaska history and Fairbanks history, both to tourists and to students. And one thing is true for both audiences. Relevant history is more interesting than history that has nothing to do with them. The story of the past is interesting when it connects to the story of the person. So in looking at your social studies curriculum, I am happy to report that I see many opportunities for place-based education to occur. I have not looked through every single textbook or every single material that you have. However, it does seem like there are many opportunities for a teacher to insert local and state history into the lessons that they're giving. We are lucky to live in a place that has a lot of visible history, a lot of names that kids recognize that are excellent opportunities for connecting the place to the past and encouraging them to learn about what has happened in our state and in our community over the last hundreds of years, to get them to think about what can happen in the future. In the 8th grade U.S. History and Civics description, there's information about learners applying their understanding of key historical periods, significant themes, and turning points to examine the forces of change at the community, state, national, and global levels. That's great, as long as those things are being presented in a way that's relevant to the kids. One thing that did seem like it needed some supplement were the supplemental materials, which I understand are not adopted or required. However, I didn't see a lot there that would encourage a teacher to sort of use those as part of their history-based lesson. I say this because at the last meeting, many people testified, well, like 3, testified that teaching about the semi-quincentennial, the anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, was something that should be done in our schools. I wholeheartedly agree. I spend a lot of time talking about that too. However, I just caution that oftentimes when we talk about these big historical events, we lose sense of the place and the people that made a difference in the place, and that we lose a lot of voices that have contributed to the past and may contribute to the future. So when we are encouraging our teachers to teach about the semi-quincentennial or even history, I really encourage us to talk about place-based education and making sure that the stories of where we live are included in those lessons about the past and the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cotter. Any other audience members wishing to testify on non-agenda items tonight? All right, seeing none, we will close public hearing at this time, and we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is advisory member reports and comments. Do we have any advisory members wishing to give a report? Mr. Wade.
Good evening, board. Little to report today, but I am happy to be on my very last quarter of high school. I'm also ready for the long push of no more breaks or snow days, and I will say maybe on that last one. I fly out tonight to attend the Association of Current Technical Education Annual Policy Summit, where I'll have the chance to advocate on behalf of Alaska students down there in the Capitol. Additionally, nearly a month ago now, I had the chance to watch Les Mis put on by the North Pole High School Theater. And this time, unlike The Little Mermaid, I attended this with a couple of my friends from out of town, and holy cow, we were absolutely wowed. Fairbanks truly has talent, and the arts in this school district are so incredibly strong. Additionally, as I approach my graduation, I'm also ready to end my year with this board, and I'm incredibly excited to see who takes my chair in the coming months. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Any questions from the board? All right, seeing none, Ms. Charlie?
Mine is also brief. I just wanted to announce that at FNA we did have our annual meeting on March 6th, where we had our elections for our 3 board seats. And I wanted to just publicly welcome 2 new board members, Caleb Peters and Brittany Woods Orison, to our board, and then our returning board member, Travis Cole. And then I also wanted to just publicly congratulate our past FNA board member, Sharon Hildebrand, in her new role, as she was just recently elected as Chief Chairwoman of TANA Chiefs Conference. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Charlie. Any questions from the board? All right, seeing none, Colonel Campbell.
Thank you. Just 2 quick comments tonight. JPMRC, our big exercise, is complete, and units in recovery, getting the vehicles back spun up and resetting all of their equipment from a great training opportunity. We had a lot of senior leaders get to see Alaska, and Alaska didn't disappoint with temperatures and snow. So that's always good when a lot of leaders from DC end up in Alaska. So great job by the team out in the field, as well as Alaska and its environment showing up to play. But a lot of good feedback from that, and appreciate the support during that time with our families and with our students. So thank you to this team and the teachers out there as they supported our families. And then the only other thing that was alluded to earlier, Military Month of the Child in April. I want to say thank you to the board and to the school district for your support in recognizing the sacrifices of our military-connected students and our families and what they go through. Through multiple PCSs, a lot of kids only get 1 or 2 years at a location. If they're lucky, 3, and that causes a lot of dynamics, especially as you're growing up and going through a lot of different challenges in your adulthood. But April 17th, Purple Up here in Alaska. We're looking at roughly 27 schools being recognized for initial or renewals across Alaska. So we're super excited about that at Lathrop for the award ceremony. So looking forward to that and appreciate all the support from the team here and from the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Campbell. Any questions for Colonel Campbell? Seeing none, we will move on to our next agenda item, board committee reports. Board member chairs are given the opportunity to report on the committees they are chairing. Anyone have a report? Mr. Doran.
Thank you. This is for the board curriculum committee. There are 2 things that are out for public review. One is the CTE Business Management and Administration first draft is out for review, and we encourage people to take a look at it. This is kind of bringing business management back in as one of the offerings, and so continuing to grow our CTE program. The other thing, and it was mentioned a little bit in testimony, is the social studies materials. The textbook supports for the curriculum are available for public review this week in the teaching and learning offices on the 2nd floor. And they are open 8 to 4 each day. So we encourage people to stop up, take a look at them. As was kind of mentioned, they do reference a variety of perspectives. The curriculum itself is trying to be very relevant for students. And I'm always reminded as a social studies teacher that it is sometimes his story and sometimes her story. And we need to recognize the breadth of that. Our next board curriculum meeting is on April 2nd. So that's my report for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doran. Any questions for Mr. Doran? No. Any other committee chairs wishing to report out? Not seeing any. We'll move on. Next item on the agenda is the president's report. I do not have anything to report out on tonight, but I will use the time to remind the board that we've got a lot to do tonight. So I really appreciate the discussion we had last night at our work session on budget. I hope that we can use that discussion to help hasten the process tonight and get through this thoroughly, but also quickly. We do have tomorrow scheduled as to reconvene if we do not get through the budget tonight, but I am optimistic that we can get this done. And just a procedural note, because it is our practice typically for our CFO to finalize our resolution, requiring us to take a break. What we are actually going to do, let me explain that a little bit better. Usually when we get through the budget, before we vote on the final budget, our CFO will take some time to put together our final resolution that we vote on. So we normally will take a break to allow that to happen. Tonight, depending on the time that we get there, if we get there, we may be able to table the budget to move on to other business that we have on our agenda. So that's kind of the loose plan, board, if we get there. Just wanted to give everyone a heads up. Figured I'd take this moment to provide that. And that's all that I have. Any questions? Ms. Julian.
Will we table it and then come back to it tonight as well?
That's ideally, yes. However, I will say if it's after 9 p.m., I would say we just reconvene tomorrow instead. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the superintendent report. Dr. Miner.
Great. Thank you, President Burgess. Happy St. Patrick's Day. And then to build on Morgan's or Ms. Julian's question, sorry about that. If there's substantial changes from the conversations last night, that will also delay the preparing of the resolution. And so that could also push us into tomorrow, depending on where things shake up. But we'll see where that goes. My report this evening should be pretty brief. I want to congratulate Andy Seavey, who's a 7th grader at Boreal Sun. Took first place at the Interior Alaska Spelling Bee and will represent us at the Scripps National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. From May 26th through the 28th. And so good luck to Andy and congratulations on that Interior win. The Alaska Star and AK Science Assessment window is open from March 30th through May 1st for students in grades 3 through 9. Please tune into your school-based communications to find out when your student-specific testing window is for your school. Students in grades 5th, 8th, and 10th will also take the Alaska Science Assessment. A few things to keep in mind for your child to be successful on the assessments. Ensure they get enough sleep the night before testing. Make sure they arrive at school on time and encourage daily attendance during the testing windows. Those are things that families can help their students out with that will set them up for success for those assessments. I'd like to build on Melissa Charlie's statements and a lot happening in the last couple weeks. I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of our community partners and leaders here in Fairbanks, starting with the Fairbanks Native Association. Some repeats here, but would like to give my personal congratulations and congratulations from the district. We'd like to congratulate those recently elected to the board, including Travis Cole, Brittany Woods, and Caleb Peters, a West Valley High School graduate and previous recipient of the West High Valley High School Principals Award. So I don't know if you knew that, but I thought that was interesting. We'd also like to recognize the newly elected leadership of Tanana Chiefs Conference, Chief Chairwoman Sharon Hildebrand of Nulato, and Vice President Chief Rhonda Pitka of Beaver, Alaska. And we extend our sincere appreciation to former Chief Chairman Brian Ridley for his years of service and partnership in the interior region. We'd also like to acknowledge Doyon Limited and Danakanaka, whose continued collaboration strengthens the support we can provide our students and families and community here in Fairbanks. Congratulations to Dan Winkleman, the new President and Chief Executive Officer of Doyon Limited, along with newly elected board members Kimberly Bauer, Cheryl Kadzow, Shirley Cleaver, Geraldine Simon, and Ori Williams. We're grateful for the leadership and partnership of these organizations and individuals who work hard every day for our students and support our families here in Fairbanks. And then lastly, a congratulations to Lindsay Weaver, who's our Director of the 21st Century After School Programs, for being named a 2026 After School Ambassador by the After School Alliance. And she's just one of just 16 leaders nationwide selected for this prestigious honor. Lindsay's journey with after-school programs started right here in our district as a student participant and later returning as a high school program support staff member at Denali Elementary School. Today, she leads after-school teams across the district, helping ensure these opportunities continue for our students. Each year, nearly 600 students participate in after-school programs at 7 of our elementary schools. And so just a huge thank you to Lindsay for her efforts on behalf of all of our students who participate, and a big congratulations. She's won multiple awards at the national level, and we're very proud of her and thankful for her work here in the district. So that concludes my report this evening, and happy to answer any questions for the board.
Any questions from board members? All right, not seeing any. That brings us to information and reports. We have 2 resolutions. First one is Resolution 2026-21, recognizing the month of the military child, which recognizes April 2026 as the month of the military child throughout the district and encourages staff, students, parents, community members, and district community and military leaders to observe the month with celebrations, lessons, guest speakers, and other activities that honor, support, and thank our military children and the family members who care for them. Colonel Campbell, will you please read the resolution?
Yes, thanks. And Mr. Burgess and Dr. Minart, thanks for the opportunity to read this on behalf of the sacrifices of our military children. And I know Tim would want to be here to do this. He's delegated that to me tonight. But obviously it is a joint effort across the services. But Resolution 2026-21, recognizing the month of the military child. Whereas first proclaimed in 1986, April is the month of the military child, an opportunity to pay tribute and recognize the contributions, sacrifices, and unique struggles of children of military service members selflessly make in support of the United States Armed Forces. And whereas recognizing when a parent or guardian serves in the military, their children are also serving. And it is important to honor and celebrate our military's youngest heroes. And whereas the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District is proud to serve children whose parents and guardians serve in the military and are stationed on military installations within the Fairbanks North Star Borough. And whereas by ensuring military children are safe and supported in our schools and community, our men and women in uniform can focus on the challenges and missions they face in the line of duty. And whereas acknowledging the role the district plays in providing an excellent, equitable education in a safe, supportive environment so that all students, including those from military families, will succeed and contribute to a diverse and changing society from anywhere in the world. And whereas the physical and social, emotional well-being of children in the military families is essential to their success, and the Military Month of the Child is an opportunity to remember the children's role in strengthening the military family, recognizing that strong, resilient military children are essential to the success of the military's mission. And whereas in support of the military children and youth, it is highly encouraged for schools in the community to participate in Purple Up for military kids on April 17th, 2026, to show support and thank military children for their strength and sacrifices. And whereas military children and youth are a source of pride and honor, it is only fitting that we take time to recognize their contributions, celebrate their spirit, and let our men and women in uniform know that while they are taking care of us, we are taking care of their children and youth. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Fairbanks North Star Borough of Education designates April 2026 as a Military Month of the Child throughout the district and encourages staff, students, parents, community members, and district, community, and military leaders to observe this month with celebrations, lessons, guest speakers, and other activities that honor, support, and thank our military children and the military family members who care for them. Passed and approved, Bobby Burgess, President, Board of Education.
Thank you, Colonel Campbell. Next item is Resolution 2026-22, recognizing April 2026 as School Library Month throughout the district and community, and which encourages district administration, staff, students, parents, community members, and community and military leaders to observe the month with celebrations, lessons, and other activities that honor, support, and thank our library staff. Mr. Doran, will you please read the resolution?
With pleasure, and I do so, I'm mindful of the fact that this district has a long history of prioritizing school libraries by establishing them in each of our schools, funding and staffing them, and then also the dedication of our librarians throughout the district, and also keeping in mind that in each of our classrooms, teachers also maintain libraries, so it's at hand for students. So, Resolution 2026-22, celebrating School Library Month. Whereas the function of the school library is to ensure that students and staff are effective users of ideas and information, and whereas the district library coordinator, librarians, and library associates each contribute to providing the leadership and expertise necessary to ensure that the school library is an integral part of the instructional program of the school. And whereas the library assistants at each of our secondary schools provide the vital support for the day-to-day operation of a center that fosters the exploration of our students aspiring to military service, the trades, and college. And whereas the librarians are more than just keepers of books, they are educators, guides, and champions of intellectual freedom and work with students to develop research skills, promote critical thinking, and instill a passion for learning. And whereas the library staff in each school teach the skills of locating and using information through traditional resources and new technologies, provide literature appreciation activities, and guide and encourage content and recreational reading to every student. And whereas lifelong learning begins and is systematically developed through the school library curriculum of the elementary and secondary schools, and whereas in the digital age, librarians are at the forefront of teaching information literacy and digital citizenship. They help students navigate the vast sea of online information, teaching them how to evaluate sources for credibility and reliability. And whereas acknowledging the unique role the library plays in providing an excellent, equitable education in a safe, supportive environment, so all students will succeed and contribute to a diverse and changing society. And whereas the library staff of the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District have dedicated themselves to work for quality school libraries that contribute to the individual growth and development of all students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Fairbanks North Star Borough Board of Education celebrates April 2026 as School Library Month throughout the district and encourages district administration, staff, students, parents, community members, and community and military leaders to observe the month with celebrations, lessons, and other activities that honor, support, and thank our library staff.
Thank you, Mr. Dorn. All right, next on our agenda is the big one, the approval of the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District fiscal year 27 recommended budget. The board will discuss, review, ask questions, and consider all areas of the budget and amend any area of the budget to approve the FY27 recommended budget. The recommended budget is due to the borough by April 1st. And we'll open up public hearing. Are there any audience members who wish to testify on this agenda item? Ms. Genoso, please come forward. State your name, spelling your last name, give your general area of residence. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Erin Genoso, Janoso. I live here in Fairbanks, and I had sent these thoughts via email as well to each of you, but I was conscious of the fact that it was rather late in the afternoon, and it was important to me to get to weigh in. So I wanted to share in this way as well, and in part. For lots of reasons, but in part because last night also there was a question that was asked about whether music was a priority in this district. And it was really important to me to get to speak to you tonight and say that that answer is emphatically and of course, yes. I'm so very grateful that adding back the elementary band and orchestra programs is something that's been included in this year's budget. In 2022, when these programs were cut, I know that at least personally, it's something I feared might never happen. But in addition to my excitement about that, I wanted to also voice my strong support for including FTE for the middle school programs as well. Because over the past several years, I've spent a lot of time volunteering and subbing and all of that in Fairbanks Middle School band and orchestra classrooms here. And it's just become and continuously becomes painfully clear that the way that those positions are currently structured, where one teacher is responsible for all band and all orchestra classes in the school, is something that's burning out teachers and causing our district to lose educators in the midst of a teacher shortage, which makes it difficult for them to be replaced. And so I just wanted to say that there is contrasting, there's happily within our own district, there are examples of the positive impact that allowing band teachers to teach band, orchestra teachers to teach orchestra, and choir teachers to teach choir can have, because that's exactly the situation that exists at North Pole Middle School. And the band program there is projected to be 4 to 5 times larger next fall than it was just a few years ago. Their orchestra and choir programs are also large and continuing to grow, which has led then to increased enrollment in all of the music electives that happen at North Pole High School, who I realized when I walked in today you got to hear from. It's truly a wonderful thing, and it makes it so clear that with the correct support, these programs thrive and they grow, and their priority to students and community members within this district alike become obvious and undeniable. And I just wanted to show up here to say that I hope we are able to give our Fairbanks programs those opportunities as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Genosa.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to comment on the budget? All right, seeing none, we'll let Mr. DeGraw get ready here. Okay, and whenever you're ready, Dr. Minor, let you turn it over to Mr. DeGraw at any time. And we could actually take a motion from the board at any point as well.
Move to approve the FY27 school district recommended budget with budgeted revenue and all funds totaling, right? This is, no, not that one.
We simpler version at this point is all we need.
Move to approve the FY27 Fairbanks North Star Borough School District recommended budget.
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion on the table. And anytime, whenever you're ready, Mr. DeGraw.
Alrighty. Thank you, President Burgess. I'll lead off here just with a few comments to set the table, and then we'll proceed with our work tonight. So you can see obviously the resolution in front of each of you that was just read from. That President Burgess referenced that document. If after our work some numbers change, we'll take a break and update numbers. We also, a second document that I referenced last night is a memo from Dr. Minert outlining, specifying the changes between the proposed budget and the recommended budget. So it'll be a summary of what we did, how things changed from the first version to the second version of this budget. So going forward, and appreciate the work that we were able to do last night. I think we made good progress. What we're gonna do, here's kind of the plan from administration for this evening. We are going to use that progress that we made. We took a lot of notes, gathered kind of where we felt consensus was, and also where we felt consensus wasn't. And we've come up with a baseline balancing act scenario that I'm going to run through here in a moment, and that's going to establish a baseline, okay? And virtually zero of you are going to agree 100% with this scenario. That's not the point. The point is to get us started to where board members can then begin to make motions, have conversations, debate back and forth, have motions, vote on those motions. If a motion is successful, balancing act will immediately be updated on the screen, and it creates the new starting point, the new place where we're at that moment. If the motion fails, we're back to the original baseline. Hopefully that makes sense, but I think it'll allow for us to move forward and kind of be funneled into one consistent spot where we can keep our bearings and know where we're at, as opposed to kind of just going everywhere, every which way. And we have this baseline and this North Star point where we're going to move forward from. So as President Burgess mentioned, we're hopeful, confident we can finish tonight. If a lot of it will hinge on how much change happens tonight now to kind of where we're going to start from, that we'll go over in a moment. If there's 15 or 20 changes, I'm a lot less hopeful that we'll be able to finish tonight. If there's 4 or 5 or 6 changes that are relatively minor, I'm pretty confident that, as President Burgess mentioned, we can break. Maybe the board can continue on its agenda and we can come back with updated good numbers. My worry always is us being in a rush and making mistakes. That's the last thing I want to do. We won't do that. And so it could be a situation where if we have to come back, we have done this in the past where we come back for literally 5 minutes. A new motion is read, seconded, and there's even no debate. There's a vote and we're done. So that hopefully that's how it plays out. Either we do finish tonight or, hopefully worst case scenario, we're coming back maybe for 5 minutes tomorrow and that's that. So if there's no other questions regarding kind of the talking points I just ran through, I will go ahead and start. I'll set the table, go through line by line for the board on our baseline scenario. If board members would like to queue up the balancing act on your own computer, you can do that. You don't have to because it's going to be consistently put up on the screen in front of you. So whatever your preference is, more than free to do whatever you'd like. So I'm going to begin. And again, let me just run through this. And then once I'm done, you guys can have at it, so to speak, figuratively speaking. So I'll start on the revenue side of things. We have $64.5 million selected. The actual number is $64,550,995 is the number. $64,550,995. So we have that represented in the local contribution. State revenue stays the same, federal revenue stays the same, and then other revenue is status quo to the proposed budget at $2.3 million. So that is our revenue side. And now I'll begin going through on the expenditure side. So at the top, we have elementary school PTR.
Mr. Doran, I think the request was to wait until the end of Mr. Grau's presentation. If there's a clarifying question, that I'll allow it. But okay, all right. Thank you. Please proceed, Mr. DeGraw.
So at the top of the expenditure side, we have elementary PTR remaining at 23, status quo to the proposed budget. We are restoring 2 additional ELP teachers, and that would create a total of 6. So 2 in addition to the 1 in proposed budget for a total of 6. That's what we have selected at this point in time. So 2 additional to the proposed budget, which would make 3 additional compared to FY26. 3 currently, 3 more, 6 total. Elementary music, we have 4 additional FTE. We're restoring 4. So from 0 to 4, that's a reduction of 4 compared to the proposed budget. Barnett Magnet staffing, we're restoring 1 FTE, 1 magnet FTE. They are gaining an additional 2 due to PTR, but this is just looking at the magnet FTEs that were reduced last year. And 2.5 was reduced last year. We're restoring 1. Salcha elementary staffing. We have 1 elementary teacher selected and a half-time SPED teacher selected. So a lot of board members last evening were talking about the total dollar amount. That's 187 is the dollar amount, 187.5. And I think a couple of board members mentioned just approving a bucket of money and letting the school decide, and that might be a good approach as well. So 1.5 FTE for a total of 187.5. Classroom tutors. We have 2 that currently exist in the proposed budget, and we have an additional 5 to that 2 for a total add of 7 compared to current year, FY26. So we already have 2 in proposed, 5 additional for a total of 7 tutor adds compared to current year. Behavior support technicians. There's 0 now, so this is all in proposed budget. So this is all an add. So 5, an add of 5 SBSTs as well. Currently there's 0, so an add of 5 to get 5. In secondary schools, we've moved the PTR in middle school from 28 down to 27. High school PTR remains at 30 as in proposed budget. CTE, we have one CTE teacher added at Hutch, can be used for, they'll have the latitude to use that FTE as they see fit, and then increasing the CTE budget by 25%. Selected. Secondary counselors, this version is left blank. So we want the board to kind of recircle back on this topic. We have some data that we referenced, Dr. Myatt and I referenced current numbers. We have a spreadsheet to show the board with information. Actually, you already received it, I think. Is that correct? Okay, we can look at that if you'd like as well, but we wanted to leave this a clean slate for the board to discuss tonight. So no additional counselors selected in this version. CEC, we have one FTE teacher selected. Secondary music, we have 2 FTE instrumental music teachers selected, in addition to the 4 elementary. Music supplies, we have $50,000 ad of music supplies there, listed as secondary, but could be used elementary as well. And that concludes secondary. District-wide, we have proposed budget, 1.4 million total, a 0.85% rate selected for budgeting for vacancies. We have a 50% increase in regular instruction supplies district-wide. We have 1 FTE registered apprentice selected. And then we have 1 of the ADC positions, the human resources tech for onboarding selected. We have accounting for the district's initial proposal for negotiations selected. And then for transportation, we continue to have the $1.2 million proposed budget subsidy from the general fund to transportation selected. So all of those items create a surplus top line that you can see there of $765,000. And that concludes my summary, and I'll turn it back to you, President Burgess.
Thank you, Mr. DeGraw. So we'll open this up to the board for questions, discussions, motions, etc. I have Mr. Doran, then Ms. Maple, Ms. Carol Hubbard, Ms. Hull, and then Ms. Julian. Let me write that down so I don't lose track. Mr. Doran.
So going to the revenue side, I know we discussed it a little bit last night, but also people who may not have tuned in last night, but tuning in tonight to our regular meeting. The local contribution, the 64.5, that basically is calculated by what we received this year plus the adjustment in the required minimum that actually reduces the state. So it just holds us even with what we got last year.
That's correct.
In
Yeah,
terms
it
of
accounts
actual,
for
because it's offsetting the state.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's offsetting the reduction in state revenue with a higher local contribution. Yes, correct.
Thank you. And then just put me back in the queue.
Just a clarifying question on that. That difference between this year's, so the 62.8 and the 64.5, that difference is equivalent to the increase in the minimum local contribution?
Correct.
Thank you.
1,770,995 was the
Thank you.
increase.
Ms. Maple.
I'd like to move to add 0.5 FTE high school counselor at Hutchison and a 0.5 FTE middle school counselor at Randy Smith. May I speak to my motion?
Ms. Maple, please speak to your motion.
We didn't fully get into or I didn't come back to this last night after we talked about at once the 0.5 FTEs at all of these schools was added to the balancing act, and that came out of making sure that we were making things equitable. And so I just wanted to share my initial thought, why I initially just brought those 2.5 positions forward. My intention with that was actually to make it equitable, because while the ratios shared, show that adding those 0.5s at Hutch and Randy might decrease the ratio at those schools to a little bit lower caseload than the other schools. The purpose of adding those is that as it stands now, with both of those schools having a half-time counselor, we understand the position is half-time, but when it's not half their body is there with the full-time person, it's that there's literally only a second person half of the time. Whereas other schools have 2 adults available for those services or more at all times. So my intention of adding those 0.5s, of making those 2 whole, was to get to a place of equity. And while I would love to see lots of counselors added, I also know there were a lot of other things we saw. So I am trying to start out by being intentional, and starting with just making those 2 whole to get to what I think would be a more level playing field, for students to have access to their counselors at all of our middle and high schools.
Board, any discussion? Mr. Doran?
And I am speaking to the
To the motion.
the amendment there.
Amendment, yes. Thank you.
But a related question: in the information we got in terms of student load for each counselor at the schools, there's a 0.5 at Star of the North, but listed as a 0 count. And I know there are students there. I'd just like to see how that meshes with this, because whether that actually gives us a halftime person, that could be one of these 0.5. So that's where I'm relating it, and just to make sure we have that.
Ms. Beam, do you know our current student count at Star of the North? 38 students at Star of the North that halftime counselor serves.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks.
Any further discussion, Board, on the amendment? Ms. Carol Hubbard?
Are we amending the amendments? Is that allowed?
We can amend amendments one time.
Well, I'd like to move to amend the amendment to include a 0.5 FTE high school counselor at Lathrop, West Valley, North Pole, Hutch, and Randy. So I believe that would be 5. That's all 5 that are listed here on the worksheet. Please.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend the amendment to add all of the 0.5 FTE positions listed in Balancing Act. Ms. Carol Hubbard, would you like to speak to your motion? All right, any other board members? Ms. Julian?
Yeah, I'll speak to I'm going to support that amendment to the amendment. I know that our counselors carry a tremendous load when it comes to academic success of our students, especially in secondary, and placing them as we lower class sizes, and as we hopefully are able to, if we are able to lower class sizes tonight, and if we are able to add additional programs back, I anticipate those academic caseloads going up. And I we've heard now for several years that they could use more support. And I want to make sure that our students have the most success as possible. And I'd like to take this opportunity to support the amendment that's on the table.
Mr. Dorn.
I'm going to actually speak not in favor at this time for it. When I look at our caseload calculations throughout the secondary main high school, main secondary schools, they're actually fairly closely within range of each other. And by adding the additional, we're getting some greater discrepancies in the ranges among the schools. And I am concerned that for sustainability, and this will play out in several areas that I have, is to make sure we keep in mind some sustainability so we're not just bouncing around. And I'm concerned that this might lead us in that area. There is no question in my mind that there is a tremendous concern for the well-being of students and interactions that counselors and staff have in those areas. So I'm not minimizing that, but I am concerned that that we're not able to sustain it over a period of greater period of time, which I think is also important for retaining people so that they know they can count on it. And I would personally be very happy to revisit this between recommended and approved again, if that was one of the things that we would look at.
Any other comments from board? Ms. Hewitt, I haven't forgotten about you. Ms. Maple.
Can I ask a question through the chair to the administration? I know that we've heard about potential issues with filling all of the music positions. Are counselor positions some that we struggle with vacancy, or are those ones that we tend to be able to fill? Or is there data on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Historically, we actually have not had a huge challenge in filling counselor positions, but in recent years, we have seen some stay open for longer periods of time. And so, by adding some of these positions back, I can't guarantee that we would fill them all. We would recruit as hard as we could, but in past years, we have had some challenges in filling a few of our counselor positions.
Okay, thank you.
Right, I'll go ahead and speak in favor of this. I understand the concerns about sustainability, and I do share them. I also am concerned because I hear from our counselors that they feel strained, particularly our high school counselors, and as if it's just challenging for them to get to all of the work that they would like to do due to factors beyond their control. I think adding positions would alleviate some of that. I recognize that there's a challenge with the balance of caseloads, but I would be optimistic that our counselors would forgive us for that. Any other discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Hearing none, Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote?
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
No.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
No.
Miss Hewitt,
No.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you. That brings us back. Well, it would bring us back to the amendment as amended, but I'm going to assume that I didn't announce it before, but that should carry the vote for the amendment itself. So the amendment as amended has been passed. I did want to mention, I forgot to mention this earlier, Board, just another procedural note. In the past couple budget cycles, there's been a recognition that the order in which we make these motions matters in terms of trade-offs in the budget. So I did want to let everyone know that I intend to be generous in allowing us to revisit some of these topics once other votes have been made as well. Just that procedural note. Wanted to throw that out there as we're walking through. So brings us back to the main motion, which is the full budget, and I have Ms. Carol Hubbard in the queue next.
I would like to move that we go to a 1.25% vacancy rate.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the vacancy rate to adjust it to 1.25. Moved by Ms. Carol Hubbard, seconded by Ms. Doolian. Ms. Carol Hubbard, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just briefly. I know we talked about this a lot last night. With the lower PTR and with the positions that we're adding, it seems prudent that we consider that we're not going to probably fill everything and that there's going to be turnover happening. And with the current vacancy rate that we've experienced this past year, it seems like we would be headed for a similar situation. So, thank you.
Right, to the board. Ms. Doolian?
Yes, I would happily speak to this one. So I am very much in support of moving the vacancy rate to 1.25%. I'm very proud of this board for getting to a point this fiscal year where we are precision budgeting when it comes to salaries, which is what we see other school districts, not only within our state, but nationally, including large organizations, do. It is entirely reasonable to assume that you can look at past salaries and benefits from your employee base, and especially with an organization our size, and say that it is absolutely okay and understandable that we aren't going to have 100% of the positions filled 100% of the time. This is an opportunity for us to be surgeons when it comes to budgeting for our largest item within our budget. I am so glad. I was incredibly proud to see that we had a recommended proposed budget of 0.85% coming from the administration, which is a $1.4 million in savings on the front end of our budgeting process that we can take and potentially invest in other areas or reduce the amount of cuts that we might need to make in other areas or draws on fund balance. I am incredibly supportive of this. In conversations that I've had with the administration, I wanted to make sure that there was a comfort level in going to that 1.25%, and that was received very well, especially understanding the amount of hires that we are going to try to make. And so this gives us a little bit more wiggle room and buffer in our budget, and it is more precise. So I am totally in support of this. Thank you.
Mr. Dorn?
Thank you. So just to be clear, and for the to the administration, for the listening public, when we budget for vacancies, this is a negative number on the expenditure side.
Correct.
Is that correct? So it's actually, in a sense, on the revenue side, we're filling that out. that would be a positive on the revenue side. Effectively, we're saying we have more revenue
Correct.
to use.
Correct.
Okay.
It's lowering the anticipated expenditure.
Okay. I am speaking against the amendment for several reasons. One is that I do have a fundamental issue of philosophical issue and technical issue in terms of budgeting for vacancies. Since every position we budget for, we need. And the practice of the district, as with most organizations and companies, is that if someone does leave, you start that process in time. And as a principal in the district, I remember that heavily, so that we could have that filled immediately after the person who was in the position left, the next one coming in. So that should be our practice, and that should be the every effort to not have any vacancies. The other piece is that a lot of the positions that we're adding are certified positions, which are full year positions, and they're contracted for the year. And so we want those in place at the beginning of the year. I know there are staff shortages. We have to be competitive, et cetera, in recruitment and for people to come into education. And that's not only this district, it's the state, it's the nation. So I am not comfortable with banking on increased vacancies when we are really budgeting for all those positions to be filled. And I do think it's sets up a dichotomy that is not appropriate within our accounting means. So that's my opinion, my approach on the budget.
Okay, I've got Ms. Hewitt on Zoom and then Ms. Hull, and then we'll go to Ms. Maple.
I just wanted to say that I do not support the amendment and am only comfortable with the 0.85 at the maximum for our vacancy.
Ms. Hull.
I'm going to speak in favor of this. I recognize what Mr. Dorn is saying, but I also want to speak that as we are budgeting for these vacancies, we absolutely want every single position filled 100% of the time. But the reality is, with this many individuals employed in the district, that's not going to happen. And so this is that capture of those funds on the front end so that we can invest this in other areas in our budget. And so for that reason, and also the reason that we do have a surplus, or not surplus, but that this has worked this past year, I am in favor of this. Thank you.
Ms. Maple.
I was convinced of this last year, and I have been going over it since we started talking about raising it yesterday, and have landed more open to it than I started. And I got there from, when I write my very, very tiny budget, I look at what I want to fill the positions, the ideal full staff role, and then I look at last year and how close I was able to come, and I try to find a point in the middle to put forward in my budget. And I believe that this is a responsible way to do that, one of many. And I am comfortable with doing here what I consider responsible, conservative budgeting elsewhere.
Okay, I have myself in the queue. I'm going to speak against this amendment. I am okay with leaving it at 0.85, budgeting for 0.85% vacancies. But I come to that even reluctantly for reasons that I won't belabor, similar to what Mr. Doran said. I find it odd to be adding positions and not planning to fill them. And we've heard from our administration that this is essentially equivalent to a draw on fund balance. If we succeed in our goal of filling these positions, it will have to come from fund balance one way or another. So to me, this is just asking for an additional draw on fund balance, and I am a bit risk averse because I'm trying to think about long-term sustainability here as well. So I would speak against the amendment. Any other discussion from the board? Ms. Carol Hubbard.
I just wanted to follow up and just say that, by increasing our vacancy rate, it's not that we don't want to fill these positions. We absolutely do want to fill them, and we hope we do. But the reality is that we do have a lot of employees. And by increasing this vacancy rate, it reduces the probability that the borough will not be able to swipe any funds that are left over. As we heard last night repeatedly, that if we have a fund balance that is too high, like we did this year, they will swipe the money back. And I believe it was $11.4 million that they took. So this small amount is not a huge risk. We had a lot. So anyway, I just want to go back on record and just say that it's not that we don't want to fill them. It's the reality that there will be vacancies. And so for every dollar of vacancy that we have, we've now invested back into the classrooms. And I definitely support that.
Mr. Doran?
Just on an additional point, not to repeat what I did, but said, I find it ironic that we have lots of conversations regarding recruiting and retaining staff. And I know it's not a perfect system, but we're really banking our budget on $2 million under this amendment. We're balancing our budget by $2 million that may or may not be there and seems to work in variance with our intentions of retaining and recruiting staff.
Anything else from the board? Right. Hearing none, Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote on the amendment? A yes vote will increase our budgeting rate to 1.25% for vacancies. A no vote will leave it as it currently is in the proposed budget at 0.85%.
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
No.
Miss Hewitt,
No.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
No.
Mr. Burgess.
No.
Thank you. Motion carried.
All right, that brings us back to the main motion, which is again the full budget. Ms. Hull.
Yes, I'd like to go up to ELP, please, for a moment. So I just want to clarify one thing, and then actually I want to make a motion. On this, yesterday we talked a little bit. There were a couple of people that said 4. There were some that said 5. New ELP instructors, but this one only has us going up to 2. So I just want to clarify.
Is my cursor able to be seen? Yep. So if you see my cursor, that would create a total of 6.
Oh.
So we're current year, we're at 3.
right, the additional ones would then have a total of 7 and then a total of 8 was what we were talking about yesterday.
Okay. Okay,
think.
yeah. So I'm just
swing some head nods.
reflecting what we have in this scenario. And I think I'm not qualified to speak to this, but I think there's some dialogue that ought to be had with administration on, where we want to land on ELP teachers. And that's out of my realm. So, but just to clarify what's represented on the screen in Balancing Act, we have a total add of 3 ELP teachers compared to current year.
Mhm.
We had 1 in the proposed budget, and then it's 2 additional beyond that. So that's what we're representing here.
Dr. Minor?
And I pick up what you're putting down, Audra. I think as we were changing and trying to clean up the tool, it looks like we missed a couple in terms of getting up to the 8. So as an option for the board.
Yeah. So should we add that back in then, or?
I would say let's have the conversation as a board, and if that's what the motion carries, then we could take a brief pause and add that into the tool so it
Okay.
can be reflected.
Okay. Yep. We will do
If that works for the board.
I move to have a total of 8 ELP instructors district-wide next year. However many that means we have to add 5.
Second.
Right. We have a motion to increase, to add back a total of 5 FTE for ELP teachers, made by Ms. Hull, seconded by Ms. Carol Hubbard. Ms. Hull, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes. Through the years, we've had, this program has been cut and cut and cut and cut. And I know that there's going to be changes in the way that our ELP is delivered. And I think having the additional ELP instructors during this time of transition would be a lift to the instructors that we already have. And it would ensure that we are able to touch more kids that need those services. And so that is why I put forward this motion.
Mr. DeGraw?
So, well, yeah, depending on how the motion plays out, we can make an update. In the meantime, I have selected another box to the 802-522 is reflective of what this would do. So the board has the financial impact there at the top line.
Thank you, Mr. DeGraw.
Yep.
So the motion is to increase for a total, to restore 5 positions, for making a total of 8 ELP teachers in the district. Board, any discussion? Mr. Doran.
Clarification on the tool. We still need the FTE of 1 also, because the 2 is only for two people, 2 additional, but we're really adding 3 additional. And if we don't have that 1. Yeah, we're in the numbers, we're accounting for the 3, the add of 3 in the box that's checked right here. Okay, well, it only says 250, which is 2. Right, 2 in addition to the one that's already. We've accounted for the numbers. So, yeah, we have.
Okay. Point of clarification.
All right.
I'll clarify. The numbers here are in comparison to the proposed budget, not last year's budget.
Correct. It's 250 in addition
That's
to.
what, but it says proposed budget, and so that's why the numbers are not adding there. Okay, so I'm going to speak against it for a couple of reasons. I'm comfortable with the total of 6, so adding the 1 in the proposed budget and 2 additional. We're redoing a program, and again, I'm mindful of
the sustainability. This is a program that has really been hit, as has been noted over the years. Uh, I'm really pleased with the presentation that we had at a previous work session, which included principals, teachers, and administration. Um, and I think, and I understand it works much better numbers wise if it is an even number, so 6 versus 5 or 7 or something like that. But also that as we reestablish this, see how that plays, and then get a feedback on can we continue to expand the program and build it over some time. Again, I'm really mindful of the fact that each year that goes by, our state funding gives us less because inflation is already eating into that. And I don't want to be in that cutting situation a year from now or 2 years from now and be able to, and have to say, oh, sorry, it was a great idea, we're dropping it. And people invest a lot in getting it going, and it's really disheartening for them to then see it go. Classroom teachers also depend on that, and to begin to organize their classrooms and meeting the needs of their students. So I'm comfortable with going to 6 total. It'll be adding 3 positions in next year's budget. I'm not comfortable going to 5, and I would love to see. They've put work into planning something. Let them put it into action. Come back to us, and we're actually still giving them more than they were figuring on 4. They're still getting more, so they've got more flexibility, latitude to make it work, which is reasonable. Also, with the number of schools they're addressing, but I don't want to overwhelm them at the same time. Sometimes having too much wealth is not very beneficial.
Ms. Julian.
Thank you. I'm going to speak. I'll speak that I'm not supportive of the amendment. However, I am supportive of investing into ELP. In the conversations that I had with administration in preparation for our meeting tonight, I learned a little bit more about the kind of the sweet spot of being able to build out the ELP program, the extended learning program, and that sweet spot being potentially getting us to a total of 6 FTE positions. That would be one that the district has already put into the proposed budget, which is reflected in the numbers, in addition to the 2. So thank you on top of that, which adds an additional $250,000 for a total of 6 total within our district. Now, I almost want to say I'd like to vote on this later, because my thought was we either, depending on what we can do tonight, we either have 6 total in our district, or we double that number to 12 total in our district, because that would meet the kind of distribution needs. However, I don't want to split the difference and make the program wonky with a number that doesn't work to be distributed within our schools. So I was kind of the thought, oh man, I want to wait on this one, because I want to either go for 6 or for 12 total. And that's why I'm not going to support the amendment on the table.
Ms. Maple.
For the listening, well, for all of us, I just want to clarify that the way that the balancing act is functioning it's showing what our proposed budget was. And then the numbers added back reflect the additions or subtractions from the proposed budget. So the math on the screen is an accurate representation. That 250 of adding 2 more than are in the proposed budget. And then the number at the top is reflective of the 2 more plus the additional ones that Miss Hull suggested.
Correct.
And I I want to invest in some broader additions that we talked about yesterday in lieu of that additional reduction of PTR. So I'm not supportive of such a big leap here. And I actually am more, I support the initial proposed budget to see how this program works before investing further. Okay.
Ms. Carol Hubbard.
Well, I'm not sure I even support the the large number that I supported a minute ago. I understand a little bit more clearly about making sure that we have an equal amount of numbers to make sure that the distribution is that it works and that it's positive. I definitely want to support ELP. I think that it's been one of those programs that has been cut and cut. And I like the idea of extending learning and pushing in to the to the 1 and 2 grades, and then having the combination in grade 3 and then the pullouts in 4 and 5. And if we can make that happen, if the administration feels that that can be a strong program by adding 3 total this year, I think I would back up and support the 3 total as opposed to the maximum number.
All right, I have myself in the queue, and I, based on the discussion here, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to amend the amendment to restore a total of 3, that option that Andy has selected, that Mr. DeGraw has selected there. So reducing the number from the original amendment by 2.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. And I'll speak to my motion. I agree with much of what's been said. The logistics of adding additional beyond that may be too challenging, but I do want to make sure that our ELP teachers are supported and that there is that they have enough person power to carry out the revised ELP program in the district. And it is something that I hope that in future years we can continue to build on. But I think pushing it too hard right now may create more challenges than rewards. Any further discussion on the amendment as amended? Mr. Doran.
Just a procedural, is your intent to have, if the amendment passes, the amendment to the amendment passes, to carry the amendment?
If it pleases the board, yes. I'm getting a lot of nods. Yes. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Doran. Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, Ms. Richardson, will you call the vote on the amendment to the amendment? A yes vote will restore a total of 2 positions beyond what is in the proposed budget, or 3 positions if we're comparing it to the FY26 budget. Ms. Richardson.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
No.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
All right, and that brings us back to the main motion, the budget itself. Miss Julian, I have you next in the queue.
Okay. I am going to move to classroom tutors, please. So I move to add 8 FTE classroom tutors for a total of 10 in our district.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Julian, would you like to speak to your motion?
Absolutely. Prior to tonight, I was very much set on trying to see if we could get to a place in this board where we would lower our class sizes in elementary school, our target class sizes to 22 students in a class. Right now, I'm very pleased that our class sizes in this budget that we have in front of us tonight have been recommended at 23, which is a reduction from 26 of where they are right now for elementary. The reason I was pushing so hard for the 22 students, and this will come back to why I've proposed this with the additional 8 FTE, additional classroom tutors. The reason that I have opened Mr. DeGraw, I'm additional 8 for a total of 10. Thank you. The reason that I am so passionate about this is because last night during our work session, our work session worked exactly, I think, as intended, which was that we were able to really reflect on that intention, and then as a board get some new information from the administration and generate ideas around, well, our intention is that we want more support for our students. And the administration said that we could potentially get more strategic support for the students that need it by maintaining the recommended class size for elementary, which is at 23 now, which is a great win because it's currently at 26. So it's a great win because we're already making an investment there. But instead of going that little bit further, which is 22, why not add additional tutors and then place those tutors where they're needed within our school district, meeting the needs of those students? I have had so many conversations. I'm a mother of 3 elementary school students in our neighborhood schools here in Fairbanks. Through my personal connections and also through my school board work, I have had an exhaustive amount of conversations with educators from all across our district in neighborhood schools. And they are screaming for this support. I am so hopeful with what we have in front of us tonight. This budget is an opportunity for us to show we talk about retention and recruitment. We are able to potentially show educators that we are with you. We hear you. We know your struggles. We know that behaviors are up. We know that students are behind. We know what you need to do every single day. And gosh darn it, we're going to put our money there. We're not going to give up on you. So I am emphatically supporting us and asking us to add 8 FTE additional classroom tutors at the elementary level to be strategically placed within our district to support our educators, to support our students that need it, it's going to directly tie to student success. It's going to directly tie to outcomes, and they're going to be potentially easier to fill positions because they are not certified teaching positions. And we are going to hopefully be able to add 10 people total back into our elementary schools that need them and support students right now. Thank you.
Any discussion from the board? Mr. Doran.
I'm going to speak in support of this, but I also would like to, through the chair, get some administration feedback on it. And do you want it before I speak to it or after? Go for it.
Okay.
And then if that's okay with the chair, and then I'll speak to the motion too.
Absolutely. Dr. Meinert.
Absolutely. I'm very supportive of the additional proposed addition of tutors. This was a nice addition last night as this came forward, and as we talked about PTR versus some other assistance that we can offer schools. And this is an area that, as I've been talking to principals and teachers and community members throughout the year, that they've identified as needing additional supports in the building outside of just classroom teachers. Our support professionals do a tremendous amount of intervention work that will help with the Alaska Reads Act. We're looking at hopefully providing before school care next year, and some of these folks will be instrumental in helping with that. And so there's a number of ways that schools and principals can utilize these additional support professionals in our school, and so in our schools, and so we're very supportive of that. I know the board asked last night to come back with a plan on specifically where the individual teachers may go, and we're starting to develop that plan, but I think it's too early to say exactly where those individual tutors would go, because we want to make sure that we're not running afoul of any Title I regulations with comparability reports. And so we'll take a look at things such as enrollment size of schools, what the need is, based on the staffing that they already have in school, and what special education populations look like. And then, as we get closer to that approved budget, we would for sure have exactly where those individual tutors would be located at, but not prepared this evening to give you a specific location for the tutors. But overall, very supportive of this add to the budget.
Then if I can speak to the motion, the amendment.
Go ahead, Mr. Dorn.
So I'm in favor of the amendment. It's very much in line with my thinking when I brought up last night the idea of a literacy initiative. And it's actually been something has been talked about as we cut the reading tutor supports over the years under various guises of whether it was Erie, RTI, and then back in the day when we actually had reading specialists in the district, and that I think goes to the late 80s when they were cut under budgets. The last minute support from the Borough Assembly back in the day in the 90s to actually support what became the Elementary Reading Improvement Initiative, and then district supports for response to instruction, which were really literacy tutors. And so I'm supportive of this. It factored into what I would like to see in our budget, and I thought we would be able to do. So I'm glad that administration sees it reasonable. I would like to express that there be some latitude with administration and the individual schools in terms of literacy, because I know on one hand, this really acknowledges the tremendous work that our elementary schools have been doing in the Walk to Read, even in some very challenging staffing situations. They have really done a tremendous job, and it's fun to watch them talk about it, watch them in practice with that. Recognizing that the state made literacy a priority. At the time, they only funded it with $30, not all of it for reading, because some of it was supposed to go towards early childhood. But so it was a very minimal amount that they supported it with. Our district has really taken a much broader initiative with it. So I think that this continues that effort. I think it still keeps us within reason so that we're not putting programs out there that we're going to have to cut in a year. I think we can sustain this. And so, but I'm mindful of trying to be careful that we've often had reading initiatives of various sorts. They go for several years and then we cut them. I think this is a number that is reasonable, so I am supportive of it.
Anything else from the board on this? All right, Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote? A yes vote will add an additional 8 FTE classroom tutors beyond what is in the proposed budget for a total of 10 additional classroom tutors. Ms. Richardson.
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Okay, that brings us back to the main motion. Ms. Hull.
Going up to Barnett. I move to restore 2 FTE magnet exploratory teachers.
Second.
Okay, the motion from Ms. Hull is to restore a total of 2 additional FTE exploratory teachers at Barnett beyond the 1 that's in the proposed budget. Ms. Hull, would you like to speak to your motion?
I guess one I want to clarify, not beyond the proposed budget. So it would be a total of 2.
Total.
Okay.
This is reflective of your motion
Gotcha.
right here.
Thanks. They're a magnet school. People want to go there because it's different, and their program for these exploratory classes has been also cut through the years. And so I think restoring that would be beneficial to the entire model of the school and to make it what it was designed to be.
Ms. Maple.
Question through the chair to the administration, and I apologize. I know it's been asked several times before, but for the sake of my clarity, does this plus the PTR reduction return us to where we were before last year's cuts, or is it, or not, or is it more?
It's 0.5 FTE short. So we reduced their 2.5 FTE magnet teachers. And
Right, because
this
the magnet is separate from the PTR. These are different
Correct.
conversations.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much.
So they're still 0.5 short of where they were before last year, before current year.
I am supportive of the amendment.
Mr. Doran?
I'm not supportive of the amendment at this time. Again, being mindful of additional costs that we have to factor into our budget. I am supportive of the proposed budget, which added 1 magnet exploratory teacher under the proposed budget. I am very supportive of that. But the additional, I'm not. Keeping in mind that yes, Barnett is a magnet. It has been reduced over the last several years, but being mindful to build upon what we're able to do, as mentioned earlier, that we're able to continue our investment because we're looking to reduce PTR. They will receive 2 additional teachers as projected under that PTR adjustment, which will make a tremendous difference. And then this will give them an additional magnet teacher. All the teachers basically do exploratory, so it's not that this is just one person, but it does give them an extra person in the magnet. And so they're looking at having 3 additional teachers total next year to support their program. The design that is there for Barnett is outdated, and that's been brought up and noted over the years. It was designed very differently than it operates now, and it has evolved. And certainly the reductions that we have had to make over particularly the last several years has impacted how they can deliver what they would like to have. They are in a good position. I believe it's been talked about through the administration earlier this year that with a new principal coming on, they've had an interim principal. That person is continuing as the permanent principal. And one of the things on their agenda, and even talking with her on her agenda, is to really revisit the magnet design. So as we see what that design is, I'm certainly looking forward to that. There might be things that once we have that coming back to the board through the administration, then we may need to look to how we support that. But I think looking at 3 teachers for the coming year, additional teachers than what they have for the coming year, gives them a good latitude to expand, innovate, redesign, update where they're at. So I'm not in favor of the amendment, but I am very much in favor of the proposed budget inclusion.
Ms. Carol Hubbard?
Thank you. I would like to speak in support of the amendment. The information that we've been receiving from the teachers, the staff over at Barnett, they're asking to have a reinstatement of both classroom and exploration teachers. They have reported approximately 33 students per class in some of their middle schools, in some of their middle school classes. And it is, I believe Barnett is one of our highest percentage student body. Is it, I believe it's at like 90-something% capacity. Over 100? Okay, well, there you go. There's my point. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Minor.
Oh, you're correct. Given that it's a magnet model, there's a lottery for that school, and they often have a long wait list.
Okay. So I remember, last year the pleading of please don't take away our teachers. And, it's clearly a great model because everybody wants to go there. So I would like to support the amendment to add another teacher back. So that would be, we've got 2 with the PTR plus the 1 in the budget, and then adding another. Exploration teachers, it says in particular, are not tied to class size and play a key role in building programming and expanding opportunities. Combined with adjustments from the decreased PTR, restoring the positions would help stabilize classrooms and strengthen the overall program at Barnett. And I would like to, I'd really like to support them. And so I'm in favor of adding an extra. Thank you.
Have myself in the queue. I am going to speak against this amendment, and it's for reasons centered on equity. I understand the desire and the challenge of running a magnet model with having had these cuts, but I find it challenging to reconcile adding additional staff to a school where the majority of students are not are transported by parents. They're not. We don't provide transportation for Barnett. I have challenges in adding these staff to basically increase staff beyond what is required for PTR. I would love to add more staff at all of our schools and have exploratory teachers at every school, but I think that here we have to make a compromise rather than adding back an additional. I think I'll support the one that's in the proposed budget because that'll get them a little relief, a little bit of ability to look at their. I mean, they have the ability, I believe, to use their staff in any way that they choose. So these add backs from PTR could be used as exploratory teachers. And I just feel that there is an equity issue if we're adding additional staff here and not at other schools, particularly when we are budgeting for vacancies and not expecting to fill all of our positions. I don't think this one should be a priority. Mr. Doran.
If I could just address the equity issue or add to what you mentioned, we have two magnet schools, Barnett and Hutch. And over the years, I've been concerned when we've cut staffing, the magnet staffing at Hutch and not at Barnett, and eventually it caught up with Barnett as well. We are adding back one teaching position to Hutch, which I strongly support, and so the same similar equity issue, one to each of our magnet schools. They do have a little different mission. Maybe mission isn't actually the word I should be using, but it is. They have a little bit onus in terms of their what they're trying to offer students. That's complementary to what our other schools do. So giving them the little extra support, I think, is very appropriate for as a magnet. But that would be is part of my equity feeling as well. We're helping both of our magnet schools this year.
Ms. Maple.
I've been persuaded. I can amend the amendment once, right? That hasn't happened yet.
Correct.
Okay, I'll make my motion. Okay, sorry. I want to amend the amendment to add 1.5. So that's the one that was initially proposed in the proposed budget, and then an additional 0.5 to that instead of an additional 1. So that, yes, that is my motion. Well, I won't speak to it.
Second that for.
Thanks. Even if it gets voted down, thank you, Tim. So I have the chance to explain my thought process.
All right, just to be clear, your amendment is to reduce to an additional 0.5.
What Mr.
Instead of a
DeGrasse.
full FTE of point. Okay, thank you.
I heard what Mr. Burgess said and agreed with the equity issue, and heard what Mr. Doran said. But then I got to thinking about what Mr. Doran said, that we've added 1 back to Hutch, but we've actually added 1.5 back to Hutch because of the counselor being made whole. And the reason I bring that up specifically is that I know at Barnett, the counselor is teaching explorations, which is pulling the counselor from counseling. And so, especially with the creativity they have at Barnett to move positions around, I think that this would actually be giving the building administrator the same flexibility that we're giving the Hutch administrator. Yeah, that's my thought.
Discussion from the board on the amendment to the amendment. Ms. Julian.
I'd just like to say that I'll support the amendment to the amendment for the explanation. Thank you for explaining how this is similar to what we are proposing for Hutch, our other magnet school. So because of that, I will support the amendment to the amendment.
Okay, I am not seeing any other hands from the board. Looks so we have a motion on a motion to amend the amendment that was made by Ms. Maple and seconded by Mr. Doran to rather than rather than restoring a full FTE beyond what's in the proposed budget, the amendment to the amendment would reduce that to 1/2 FTE. Is everyone clear on that? I'm getting nods. Okay, Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote on the amendment?
Do you want to rule? How do you want to rule on the carrying?
Thank you. If it suits the board, I will say if this passes, it will carry the main amendment unless there are any objections. All right, I'm not seeing any objections, so let's proceed with this vote, and a yes vote will carry the main amendment and restore 0.5 FTE beyond what is in the proposed budget.
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Dorn,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
All right, that brings us back to the main motion once more, and I have Miss Maple.
Yeah, good morning.
We'll come back to Miss Maple. Miss Julian.
Okay, I'd like to move to amend the school behavior support technicians to add 10 FTE, additional school behavior support technicians to elementary school.
Second.
Okay, a motion made by Miss Julian, seconded by Miss Hull to add 10 student behavior support technicians. Ms. Julian, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, gladly. For the same reason that I stated before, so I won't belabor it, this was the compromise that I was willing to make to not try to get to 22 student PTR, pupil to teacher ratio in elementary, maintaining the district recommendation of 23 PTR and really adding the additional support staff. We got there with tutors, thank you, but also with the behavior support technicians. We know from teachers that since COVID, there has been a significant rise in the need to address and support student behaviors in our elementary schools. We know that, we know that, we know that, we know that, we know that. We know it, we see it, we hear it. We hear the teachers crying after the school day. We know it. Again, this is our shot at strategic investments that we know will make a difference immediately. And that is why I fully support us we did hard work. This and previous boards have done really hard work. And this is an opportunity for us to add a strategic investment that is going to make a difference and help support students who have who need that behavior support. It's going to not only support those students, but it's going to support the other students who are in the classes with those students. It's going to support the educators who are in the classrooms with those students. It's going to keep students safe. This is going to make a difference, and I would like us to go to 10. Thank you.
Okay, to the board. Ms. Carol Hubbard.
I just want to speak in support of this as well. I think that it's a great support service for the educators who are at, they're stretched already. And so this is just a really great way to come up underneath them and to help them. If we're talking about retaining educators, I think this would be a huge plus to kind of show them that we really do value what they do and we support them, and it supports students. It's a direct support for students, and it's going to improve outcomes in the classroom. The fewer, just the more support we have for student behavior, the better the outcomes are. And I'm looking forward to next year as we're investing all of this to our reports on improved reading literacy and improved math, and just watching our test scores rise because kids are getting what they need and they're not getting interrupted by things that are distracting. So I definitely support this.
Mr. Dorn.
I'm still pondering it, so at this point I'll say that I'm concerned about it, and I'd like to make some comments, and then through the chair, I'd love to get some feedback from administration in terms of, if my understanding is correct, all our schools have a behavior support, have at least one, and I understand that there may be some schools that have a second one. I don't know whether that's under specialized funding or whatever. When the administration responds, perhaps you could clarify that. So every school has a behavior support technician. I was principal when the district first started these in our schools, and they are wonderful. I am concerned about that some schools don't need an additional one. Perhaps, they would use it. Part of my support for the tutors is it gives a school some flexibility, and it directly impacts the classroom instruction. This impacts the classroom, but I'm not sure that there is and I'm not convinced that there is a need for every school to get an additional behavior support technician when they already have some. If there are particular schools that we say, oh yeah, this would be really there, that's feedback that I would like to get from the administration, or, if you say, hey, everyone could use it. But I'm concerned about putting them in that for that specific purpose, and where they could those positions could perhaps be better used now or in the future. And again, I'm mindful that this is only the first section of or I guess the second section of a three-part budget recommendation proposed to recommended to approved, that perhaps to revisit them. But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves in establishing a need that may or may not be there. The other thing that I'm thinking of is, do these become Um, uh, do they compete for our sped aides, who also many of whom are dealing with not only behavioral but behavioral and instructional needs? Not in all cases, but in many cases, they are also dealing with behavioral, and I'm concerned that we're uh, uh, working hard to get our sped aides, especially in our district-wide programs, that this becomes a competitive position. And bottom line is, do we need these? I mean, would they be well used? I have no question. Uh, uh, but again, sustainability, would we be looking at this in a year or 2 years to say, oh, we can't afford it? Because unless they adjust the BSA again, in one fashion or another, we're going to be looking at reduced funding power in that. So those are my concerns, and if administration would be able to address.
Dr. Miner?
Yeah, generally, I'm very supportive of the ad. To your question about schools that have two, North Pole E and Tickasuk both have two out of hard dollar. This year, the board might remember I added one at LAD and one at Wood River based on requests from principals and some challenging student behaviors that they've had at those schools. What I would say is this would definitely be well received from, I think, most principals in helping support student behaviors. We are working with Safe and Civil Schools, and we did a rollout at the secondary level this year, and our focus next year will be at the elementary level. And so this could fit nicely at the individual schools to get really beyond kind of that firefighting mode on student behaviors and do a lot more proactive, positive student behaviors. And so as we roll that out, that could be a nice fit at the elementary level. I would say if there's concerns at the board level, that if we find ourselves in a place where a principal thinks that they don't need another SBST, but maybe they would want a tutor, I would ask for the flexibility to work that out with the principal. Tutor is actually a little bit cheaper than an SBST, and so if we pass, this amendment and we have 10 SBSTs and we get it down to planning with a principal and they rather have another tutor because that works for their building, and the board allows us that flexibility, then that might be a nice way to kind of meet in the middle and address some of your concerns, Mr. Doran, that if there is a school that doesn't see the need for an additional SBST, I could almost certainly guarantee that there's a need for an additional tutor at that school.
Follow up, Mr. Doran?
Okay. As you were talking, I was thinking in terms of as we've reduced support staffs over the years, coverage for students coming in to the building early in the morning or coverages during recess times. These positions would be able to be used to help cover those
That's correct.
areas.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for the input, information.
Okay, I'll speak to this, and I might have a couple questions related to it as well for administration. I share some of the concerns that Mr. Doran initially expressed, and I appreciate the answers from administration there. That's very helpful. I think I'm going to support this. It speaks to what we've been hearing from many of our teachers and counselors at elementary schools, that there are increased behavioral support needs because of some challenges with increased behaviors over the past several years. I would hope that this would help to provide the relief that they need. I guess my question really is about the distribution amongst schools, and specifically I'm thinking about SALCHA, both for the behavior support technician and the classroom teachers. If we pass both of those, would that would there be a dedicated tutor and a support technician that would go to Salcha, or is that something we'd specifically have to add to that school?
That's a good question. As I stated earlier, we're not ready to necessarily say exactly where each individual staff member is going. What I would say, because of the size of Salcha, I think it would be highly unlikely that they would receive a full-time tutor and a full-time SBST. It might be like a 0.5 person that does a job share of sorts. So I would imagine that they would benefit from both the tutor addition, and if this amendment passes for the SBST, that they would benefit from that. But I wouldn't see 2 full FTE being allocated to Salcha based on a size factor.
Thank you. That's helpful. Anything further from the board? All right. I'm not seeing any, so let's go ahead and go to the vote on the amendment. A yes vote will add these 10 FTE district-wide to our elementary schools. Vote would keep it as status quo. Ms. Richardson.
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
No.
Miss Hewitt,
No.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Brings us back to the main motion again. Ms. Maple.
Thank you. I would like to move to amend the motion to restore 1 FTE communication specialist.
Second.
Ms. Maple, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah. I had the chance to ask some more questions about the communication specialist position after we had the conversation about the intention of that and at the work session yesterday. And today I was talking to a colleague that is a homeschool parent, and she said that she wishes she saw best not talking about losing money to other homeschools, but figuring out how to get people back. And I said, well, we all are always talking about that. But I hear you. And last night that came up at the meeting that that is the intention of this position, is to literally go out and figure out, to be talking to the community and figure out what folks are looking for beyond having access to our schools. And then in further talking about it and asking Dr. Miner to follow up, that if we were to restore that, if we were to add that person with that intention for their job, that if they recruited 10 students back into the district, their position's paid for. And I think that that's a reasonable ask of that person in that position. So I just wanted to come back to talk about that, about restoring that with some additional context. Thanks.
Forward to the amendment, Mr. Doran.
Okay. Again, through the chair, maybe if I could have administration talk to it. And also the thing in terms of that description of it, is this a best position? Is this how does this connect with our communications department? Is it something that as administration in the past has often said, if you give us a dollar amount and then we use it the best within that, if you could rather than our telling you how to use this position. So,
Dr. Minert?
Yeah, I can speak to that. No, it wouldn't be a dedicated best communication specialist. The way I see this position, and we haven't talked about it much this budget cycle, but I think 2 or 3 years ago we talked about it, and I see it as more of a recruitment specialist in terms of recruiting students back to our district. This is an innovative approach that some K-12 school districts are employing throughout the lower 48 with good success, and having somebody specific with marketing and communication skills to go after those students that are on the fence about joining their local public schools or other options. And as Ms. Maple said, the return on an investment is pretty low in terms of if they get 10, 15, 20 students to come to our district, their position is more than paid for. And that's potentially data that we could track over time to see the difference that this person is making. The board and the communities also talked about things like exit surveys and reaching out to families that have left the district and families that are with other homeschool programs. And currently we don't have the communication staffing to do a lot of those large projects, but if we had an additional person that was kind of in this recruitment area, those are the types of projects that we could potentially take on. So I would be supportive of it. It would fall within our communications department itself, which reports directly to me.
Follow up, Mr. Dorn?
As you were talking in terms of marketing, recruitment, main thing to get information out to families, et cetera, or would be one of their primary areas. I'm thinking also could help for marketing since we're recruiting teachers and educators, support staff, et cetera. Could you address two aspects of it is, and I can't remember the exact position, but for years, and I think they might have all predated you, or you might have gotten at the end, I think you got at the end of it, where we had kind of a spokesperson for the district, kind of a special assistant in the superintendent's office that has gone away as we cut communications and that how this whether there's any connection or helping. I mean, because in terms of the superintendent's office for the district communications, it's a piece, and I'm mindful of the audit, communications, public relations audit that we had done and presented to the board, I believe 2 years ago, approximately, how this is supportive of those audit recommendations.
Yeah,
I think, which I guess I should say, I believe, if my memory is correctly, that this kind of does fit in there, but that was an important audit that was done, and so.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that back. It was an audit and looking at the way that we do communications and communications through our department. And one of those findings was, that they saw that we were very low staffed, that we do a tremendous amount of work, but we only have 2 people currently within that department. I believe there was basically a public information officer here at the district at one point in time that does predate my existence with the district, but that is something that other school districts like Mat-Su and Anchorage have. What I would say is the addition of this position wouldn't necessarily fall right within that realm, but what that would allow us to do is our director of communications that does all kinds of things right now that might free her up to do more of those public information officer duties that currently I haven't had much support to help me with. Our communications team works really hard on a daily basis, but they haven't necessarily fallen within that realm of taking on those direct communications with media and doing, those interviews and different things with media outlets.
And if I could talk to the amendment then?
Go ahead, Mr. Dorn.
With that information and feedback, that's really, really helpful. I am supportive of this. And I think that as the administration was elaborating, it struck me a lot of times we think of these things, certain aspects of our budget, not so much related to the classroom. But this is really very much related and supportive of the classroom in terms of informing parents, informing students, informing potential educational staff about what actually happens in our classrooms, in our schools. And I'm mindful that oftentimes when we do our evaluations at the end of the year, evaluations of superintendents, multiple superintendents that I can go to, one of the big things has communication, and it always seems to be one of those areas that you can be doing an awful lot, but there's also and as there's that little bit more that needs to, reaching out in a little different way or to a different area. And as a principal, I know that's a challenge. You try a lot of different ways to connect with people. And I can say that when we had some marketing people on skills, and I don't know what happens right now, but I also see this is providing some opportunity through the director of communications right now, that department, to also do trainings with principals that help them in interfacing with media, with different things. Some are very, very good at it automatically. Other principals grow into it. I was one who had to grow into it. But there are those opportunities that are there, and I benefited a lot of from those trainings over the years. We have a very sparse department, so I think this does support it directly. Actually, really directly supports our schools and our families. So I'm supportive of this.
Anything else? Oh, I have Ms. Doolian.
Sure. I'll just be quick that I support this for the same reasons that have been shared tonight. As somebody who works in higher education, which are also public institutions, we are public schools now, K through 12, are operating within a free market. And we need to recruit. It's when I go to Mush for Kids, there are tables from other school districts recruiting my children and my family. I want to be able to have our school district there too. It's not to say that those school districts shouldn't be recruiting, but to be competitive in an open market, you need to be able to communicate with your potential the people who could be enrolled. We have a tremendous opportunity here, and this is a lever that we can pull relatively quickly to show some ROI, return on investment. Public universities, this is their bread and butter. So I'm really excited about us making a small investment here that I see as being potentially very strategic, because if we can increase enrollment, we in fact are creating a more sustainable budget for the future.
Any additional comments from the board or discussion on the amendment? All right, seeing none, Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote? A yes vote will add a communication specialist. A no vote will leave it status quo.
Miss Charlie,
Yes.
Mr. Wade,
Yes.
Colonel Campbell,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. That brings us back to the main motion once again, and I have Ms. Hull in the queue.
Can we go to secondary music? I can't remember. Was that a common consensus on both those items right there, or was that something that was?
We heard some level of consensus last evening, but, you know,
Okay,
that's
I
just
just
what
wanted to
administration
clarify
heard.
because it's yellow in the little document that we got. So secondary district music supplies was common consensus and music teacher.
Yeah, the yellow highlight probably indicated we didn't hear definitively for, a majority of members speak informally in favor, but what we heard was in this direction, is what I would say.
Never mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hull. I have no one else in the queue at this time. Ms. Julian.
Okay, I'm going to ask for an amendment that touches two areas at the same time. Is that all okay, Mr. Burgess, President Burgess?
Let's hear what you're thinking, and then we'll.
Okay. I would like to address, the areas that I want to address simultaneously are transportation as well as other revenue, which is fund balance utilization.
Let's try to take those one at a time, maybe.
Okay. I'll speak about the other one, but I'm going to only propose one amendment right now.
I think that's
that's
probably the easiest, cleanest way to do this. Thank you.
Great. So I'm going to propose, I might have talked about this a little bit last night. I'm going to propose that we amend the budget in front of us, and I'm looking at the transportation subsidy. Thank you. To $0 transportation subsidy, which gives us $1.2 million more in our budget. Why?
Because we would. Oh.
Yeah. No. Oh no. Actually, please, Mr. DeGraw. Sure. We need a second.
I'll second.
Actually, I'd love to hear. No. I was asking a rhetorical question, and I used pause too much, so it actually happened. My rhetorical question was answered. But, all right, that's a moment of levity. I think that we probably all needed. But, okay, so the transportation subsidy. What I'm doing here is asking us to consider maybe rhetorically, asking us to consider where do we want to make assumptions tonight, and where do we want to potentially ask for funding strategically from tonight. We know that this budget has to first get passed by us, and then it goes to the local borough for consideration. We have a history of, in the realm of transportation, we do not receive enough transportation funding from the state of Alaska to cover our actual needs in transportation, to the tune of, please correct me if I'm wrong, to about $2.4 million annually. Am I correct? Yes.
Yeah, it's in the $2.5 million range.
$2.5 million range. The reason that I am suggesting this, so what we do every single year is we take money that we are receiving for general operations, and we put money away to subsidize that same year, basically pay for the gap.
Correct.
I'm going to say tonight, and the only reason I'm saying this is because of the amount of opportunity that we have to increase our ask, to give the borough the opportunity to fund us at a higher level, and to ask for a strategic, to showcase strategically the gaps that are in our budget to the borough and ask them, would you consider increasing your local contribution to help support the gaps that we know that are there that the state is not covering? I don't believe, so it's been said several times tonight that we're still early on in this conversation, right? We propose a preliminary budget. It then goes to the borough. We still then have to vote on a recommended budget that we then approve, and that will happen later on. We've talked about that several times tonight.
Yeah,
That's been brought up.
Yes, the final approved budget, which typically the board would finalize sometime in June.
Correct. So I've asked myself, why would I take money that's intended for classrooms and fill a gap when we have an amazing elected body sitting over across the river that is absolutely pro-education? We have a mayor that has said he wants to be the education mayor, that actually stood up a program to highlight our educators and our students every single month. It's a great program. We have assembly members who are educators in our district, also former educators. We have assembly members who have moved to try to improve the amount of maintenance that's done to our buildings. We have a very friendly assembly right now. We also have an assembly that just lapsed, in violation of their own ordinance, $15 million of their own funding into.
Remind members to keep the conversation germane to the budget.
This is germane to the budget because it's talking about the opportunity why I'm asking us to take a risk here. We have an assembly that has an opportunity, because that local contribution is not at the max. And if I can ask Mr. DeGraw what the max level of local contribution could be.
Approximately 74 million.
74 million. So what I'm asking us.
Order. I think we're looking at the revenue side at that, but to focus on the transportation issue itself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a revenue question, because this is a big risk. I'm asking us to not put $1.2 million of funding that could go into our schools. And I'm asking us to zero that out right now, put the budget forward, and let the assembly know there's a gap here. Would you be willing to go above and beyond and help fill that revenue gap? Now, at the same time, we have in this budget that we talked about last night, fund balance utilization. The only way that I would support this one, which is why I wanted to do this together with a revenue aspect, is that I would ask us to zero this out in the transportation subsidy area, and at the same time, reduce our fund balance utilization by 1.2 million. Then if we do that, we are presenting the assembly with an opportunity, a very education-friendly assembly, with an opportunity that also has more funding to give. Property values, just assessments have gone up. Their tax base has increased. We know that there's a higher likelihood that why aren't we asking for what we need? I know that the number one reason that people don't give is because they're not asked. So why not ask them for what we need? And that's why I'm recommending that at this point, when we put a budget forward, we don't say, oh no, we got this gap. We can fund our transportation subsidy. No. Let's not use fund balance utilization yet. 11.4 million was just swiped last week. Let's ask them for this strategic investment by increasing the amount of our local contribution. And we don't even need to ask for beyond what's in this budget. I'm just saying that let's not use our fund balance tonight to the tune of 1.2 million, and let's zero this out. It still is a balanced budget. Thank you.
Question to administration: if we do not subsidize the transportation, well, whether we do or not, if this fund reaches a $0 balance, what then happens to provide transportation?
So nothing magical occurs when a fund balance goes to negative. We've had several funds over the history of the district go negative. The borough is our central treasury. They're kind of just looking at a total bottom line of all funds in accumulation. So nothing magical happens when one fund goes into the negative. Was that your question?
So I guess the question is, if we don't subsidize upfront in the budget and that balance hits zero, we then would spend out of fund balance, or would we not provide transportation? Or
we would continue to provide services. That fund, from an accounting perspective, dollars would continue to come out of our general coffers, and from an accounting perspective, that fund would go negative.
Understood.
So we don't have the central treasury. The borough doesn't hold our money in different fund categories. They hold a big, huge bucket of money, and from an accounting perspective, it's allocated to different funds. That makes sense. So yeah, transportation services would continue uninterrupted, and from an accounting perspective, that fund would go negative.
Okay. Ms. Maple.
Question through the chair. Did we have a motion in a second, or were we? Okay. Question through the chair to Ms. Julian. Clarifying your intention, that is that if we pass your amendment, this is to create an opportunity for funding, and should that not come to pass, we would come back to this line item in a subsequent budget discussion.
Sure. Yeah, that, if I may, that's my intention. And I'm not suggesting that we spend an additional $1.2 million on new investments tonight. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that what we do is we don't take another $1.2 million from our fund balance utilization right now. We reduce that amount there, and then we zero this transportation subsidy out, and we make it very clear that this is a need. If we don't have the fund, if the assembly, but again, I don't, all of the actions that I see from the assembly will lean towards they're very education friendly. So I don't see that this is that much of a risk. Okay. So yeah, the money is there in fund balance utilization. I'm saying, why are we using it right now and covering this? Why not present and say, hey, there's this other opportunity here. The state doesn't fund transportation to the need. This is a great opportunity for the assembly to step up and do something very strategic.
May I ask a follow-up question to the administration?
Go ahead, Ms. Maple.
What do you think?
So I'd just like to clarify. I think I'm following 100%. I'm going to illustrate what I think Ms. Dooley, and with permission from President Burgess, can I entertain both items? I have them both on the screen. Is that okay?
Please go ahead.
I think I hear. So, Ms. Julian, you are proposing to eliminate the subsidy with that action right there on the expenditure side. And then on the revenue side, you would reduce fund balance utilization. Whoops, I just clicked that. It's currently there. So just looking at the top ticker, you would propose to reduce utilization by the equivalent $1.2 million.
That's correct.
It's not, Balancing Act is not set up to get to that exact dollar, but the net effect would be to keep this top line number 356,022. That's your
Correct.
intention. Okay. Yeah, I understand that. Was the next question, what do I think?
Yeah. I mean, I also recognize it wasn't in your proposed budget, and then asking you guys to ad lib on what you think about something that you didn't propose is not totally fair. But I'm
Yeah,
curious on your thoughts.
So this is off the cuff. This is fresh. I haven't had a lot of time to chew on this, but my initial reaction is I don't disagree in principle, Ms. Julian's talking points. There's the move she's proposing has more risk baked in than this. And I think, she's nodding her head. Yes. So not necessarily a bad plan, but there's then if that involves asking the borough assembly for additional funds for a specific purpose, we're not necessarily 100% certain of the outcome of that conversation and that ask. I think I'm looking at things from a 30,000 foot level district wide, and I'm looking 2 to 3 years out constantly. And so, combining, eliminating the transportation subsidy, increasing our accounting for vacancies number at the same time. I'm looking at multiple things. I do appreciate not committing the dollars. So that is an important thing to where it makes it more palatable for me. But I think we're increasing our risk a little bit. I very much comprehend and can appreciate the concept of not wanting to have additional funds lapse. I very much appreciate that sentiment. Just kind of piggybacking on my comments from last night, just from that same 30,000 foot level, I'll want to make sure we're not flying too close to the sun as we start to get out on a ledge and get burned. So it's that balancing act. So I'm not sure if I gave you an answer to what I think, and certainly other people can chime in.
Dr. Miner?
I think it's very unorthodox, but last night I was not in favor of this when you put it on the table. Once you clarified that you weren't looking to use that additional revenue in the budget, I became much more comfortable with it. I think we are storytellers, and either way that this vote goes on this particular item, I think we can tell the story of the need for transportation. So I'm comfortable really with whichever way it goes. I do think that in doing this, I might highlight that need a little bit more in terms of saying, hey, like, if we don't get this additional funding, then we are going to have to move money out of our fund balance back into transportation, which takes out of opportunities for students. And so I see that being a powerful communication tool, but really kind of leave it up to the board in terms of how they want to tell this story.
Thank you.
Mr. DeGraw?
And just real briefly, Dr. Miner took the words out of my mouth. My last comment was going to be, ultimately, this will become a general fund liability. So just as long as everybody understands that transportation fund goes into the negative, we're going to continue transportation services district-wide, and that by default becomes a general fund liability. So just making sure that's understood.
Ms. Carol Hubbard?
I just have a question, a clarifying question. The 1.2 million, would we then increase our local contribution ask by 1.2? No.
That would be a question for Ms. Julian to answer.
Sorry. Okay. I'm going to figure out who's in charge.
Point of order, that's separate. That's not part of this addressing this motion itself.
Agreed. Rule in favor of that point of order.
I'm sorry, I was actually asking if we take this transportation out, then are we going to ask for it? Are we going to increase the local contribution? That's not relevant? Is it relevant?
I think to Mr. Doran's point, it's on a different area of budget. I think I think the intent was to make an ask of the borough assembly. So, or make a point at the very least. But
I can challenge the chair. I would like to clarify because that's not the intent.
Go ahead, Ms. Doolin.
Okay. No, the what I'm trying to do here is to remove, of course it's a general fund liability, so thank you for that. We right now are committing general fund to this, to a transportation subsidy to pay for it. So instead of doing that right now, I think that my intention is more along the lines of what Ms. Maple discussed, which is that if what we're seeing right here, absolutely we can ask for the local contribution as it is at 64.5 million, if that's what we agree on tonight. We could highlight that part of our budget is that we also have a $1.2 million liability. And is there funding that's set aside specifically for the school district that we could potentially put towards that? I think that answer is yes, but I think that that's also up to the board as to how we would want to approach it. But I'm not recommending right now that we would, right now in this recommended budget, increase that local contribution ask. But I do think that it's a talking point that's becomes more powerful to potentially negotiate a higher amount or ask for a higher amount or a targeted amount. But I think that's getting before the board. I think that's getting ahead of the board, and I would rather have that conversation with the board as a whole.
Mr. Dorn.
Okay, I'm going to speak against the motion on several things, and as oftentimes in years past have advocated to reduce our subsidy to the transportation. So I appreciate the idea of that because transportation has been accepted as a state obligation. They have specifically put into law the funding of it. Now, they have not kept up with cost and adequately funded it over the years, very similar to their approach to the BSA. So there is a gap in state funding of transportation, but they have accepted that as primarily their responsibility. We do know that there is an expenditure. We anticipate an expenditure, and to turn a blind eye to that is not, I feel we should not turn a blind eye to that fact. When I have in the past advocated reducing that subsidy, basically my premise is the state funds us to this level. That's the level of transportation we provide. If they want us to do more, we do it. We do, depending upon how much money we have in practice, have had a variety of routes that we've contracted for. Ostensibly, we've approached those routes with the idea that the state funding would cover it. As it hasn't, we've decided to provide transportation in excess of the state funding because we know it's good for students and to help them in attendance at school. Make it has a direct impact, a positive impact on attendance. So we know we're going to best projections. That's an expense. It's transportation is not a borough responsibility. I am concerned, unlike the state legislature, they might decide to do a targeted funding from the state legislature. We advocated for that when we were down in Geno's a month ago. If they do, that'll be factored into our our approved budget when we actually know what the state funding is. After the governor does his review on appropriations. But there's already a concern that has gone several assemblies, several mayors that have come to the fore in terms of the state putting more costs on the boroughs, ignoring our cost on it muddies that water even more, and that concern that has been raised by the borough. I'm also very concerned in terms of the clear line that the money that we get from the borough, not asking for targeted money, because it is really part of their job is not to line item decision make about our budget. They give us a lump sum. We decide how to use that. We do know that the actual subsidy is higher than the 1.2. That's on here. It would be closer to 2 to 2.5. Okay, that's because there is some already in the in that transportation fund that we anticipate at the end of the year that will help cover that cost. So we're just having to add an additional 1.2. Since the ruling was a little bit broader in how we talk about this, whether it is in transportation, in their transportation fund, or in the general fund, they account it as the same. So, but we know this is an expense. And I think if we want the story, our story is we have to spend money. If we have nothing there, the story is we don't need any additional money for transportation. We lose our argument with the state to fund education adequately. I mean, fund transportation adequately, and we open a door of line item directions from the borough. So, to me, it is not good budgeting practice to ignore an expense that we know we have. It'd be similar to, I was trying to think what example I would use. Since I'm a board member, I will say if we zeroed out our board account and said, well, those don't really exist. But we know those expenses are there. This is an expense we know. We do know the state has not done it. We could simply say, if we say there's no subsidy to it, this is the amount we have, then that's what we should be contracting for in terms of routes. But I think it's turning a blind eye to what we know we have to put in.
Okay, I have myself in the queue, and then I'll go to Ms. Carol Hubbard, then Ms. Hull, and Ms. Maple. I'm going to speak against this amendment for a couple reasons. One is that it seems like the main intent of the motion is not related to services for students, but for making an argument to folks who control our funding. Our job here is to make a budget that best reflects our actual needs. It seems we're budgeting for vacancies in order to increase the precision of our budgets. That's an argument that was made, but this is certainly going the opposite direction. This is taking something that we do have precision on and saying, making a different case. I hear that it produces risk in the budget, and I'm concerned about increasing risk, not because of student needs, but because of what sounds like political reasons. I'm also not entirely convinced that it would be convincing to a borough assembly, or that it would move the needle on our argument in any way, and that making the argument in this way, actually, by essentially asking them to give us what could be seen as targeted funding, actually weakens our argument in some of the other areas that we've been working with them to make progress on. We don't want to ask them to increase their control over our budget. So that's why I'm opposed to this amendment. I think let's make it clear what we're expecting to spend money on, rather than have I don't think it prevents us from making the same ask to the assembly in any way. So I just don't really understand the purpose, I suppose, or I don't agree with the proposed purpose, I should say. Next, I have Ms. Carol Hubbard.
I kind of think it's brilliant. I think it's amazing.
I'm sorry, I just noted the time. I need a motion to extend.
Motion to extend. Move to extend.
Second.
Okay.
So, Ms. Dillian, thank you. I think it's amazing. As from someone who doesn't work with big budgets, my budget, as Ms. Maple says, is a baby budget. I have a business and I have a budget, and it's a baby budget. And I appreciate the fact that you see things that we don't see, that you have been part of creative financing, which is amazing, and that you came to the table with some new ideas that we hadn't even thought about. Last year it was vacancy rate, and we've adopted it this year. So I think that if the state wants us to provide transportation, they should fund it. And if they don't, we could very easily ask the borough for that. If they say no, we're no different. I mean, I don't see our position as any different today if they say no. So I don't see that there's a risk at all. We still have the same amount of money. We have the same obligations. We have the same everything. Everything, I guess, is just a different pot of money, but I don't see where it's a big risk. And we don't pass the budget until June. And so we could come back and we could, if we decided to do this, we could come back and reverse it. So I think it's worth at least exploring, and I'm willing to give anything a try. I just want to invest in our kids, and I don't want money to be sitting in a transportation fund out of our fund balance that gets swiped again next year. If they're going to take money out of our fund balance, if they're going to take money that sits in transportation, let it be their money, and then it can sit in that fund. That's where I stand. Thank you.
Ms. Hull.
Thanks. I'm thinking I am going to support this. The way I see this is us asking our borough for targeted funding, which is something that we've done in Juneau. We've asked them for targeted funding before. Like Loa, all what I'm seeing is that this is going down and this is going down. So we still have the money. And in June, Should the borough say, no, we're not going to fund that, then we just put it like it is now. So I will be supporting this.
Ms. Maple.
When I ran, the thing that I brought up over and over again was I was on a ticket running against folks that had said in meetings, why ask for a bag of sugar when a cup will do and a cup won't do. And so we're talking about asking for what we need. And I do believe this is a safe way to do it. And I specifically, I regardless of intention, I do believe it's student focused. And that is because if we create an opportunity to not pull that 1.2, and then should it be funded, that is 1.2 that at a later date can be reinvested into the classroom. And this creates an opportunity for us to have an opportunity. So I think Dr. Meinert described it as unorthodox. And I would certainly agree that that's an unorthodox approach to get to student focused, but it is my route.
Mr. Doran.
I'm concerned by the fact we're not asking for more money. We know we have this expense, and I've mentioned that, so I'm not going to belabor that one. But we know that we have an expense that we're ignoring. As I sit here, one of my major concerns is, in essence, maybe this is a better term than I crossed my mind earlier. It's kind of like a Trojan horse. We're inserting something in our budget we know is a cost, is an expenditure. And we're ignoring that. And to me, that undermines the credibility of our whole budget. So I appreciate the thinking different ways and taking a look at stuff. And I know it comes very, very much from a positive intent and looking at how do we invest in kids. But we're not investing in kids. We're not changing anything there. If we got additional money that we, at this point, are neither requesting nor expect with any certitude, I'd rather see us being put that towards instruction, towards kids, towards staff. We have two costs in terms of negotiation with two bargaining units, potentially with a non-represented group, so 3 groups of employees that potentially would impact our budget that we'll have to account for when we get to the approved budget discussion. And that concerns me greatly. And because ostensibly we might have to use those to use fund balance to help balance our budget at that point. And yet we've ignored 1.2 million within our expenditures. So you know that this impacts my thinking of the budget as a whole, to tell you the truth. And I do think that it hurts us greatly because you know, we can make our arguments when we present our recommended budget for why we need the revenue that we're asking, consideration that they want to surprise us, and actually last year they did. They gave us more than what we requested, and if they did that again this year, what we can say is we will use it well, and we will use it for the benefit of students. But to ignore this expense, I think, really undermines both our credibility, and it's kind of putting the major partners with us in a spot, and I'm not in agreement with that.
Ms. Hewitt.
Thanks. I'm going to speak against this motion as well for the same reason as Mr. Dorn and President Burgess, that it's not a transparent ask to our borough, and I think that we need as much clarity as possible and present the budget that we know as what our expenses are, and not try to push them into a corner, or I think we can create that opportunity without going at it this direction. I think that will hurt us in the long run.
Ms. Maple.
I think that the I believe that in this setting, as we debate various budget items, that any insinuation that we're acting in a way that would undermine the budget we've built together, that the administration has put forward and that we're now discussing, is not assuming positive intent of anybody, and is in fact that kind of a statement is the undermining factor. I think that this is an incredibly important conversation to be having. We're in an open meeting. There's no lack of transparency. I guarantee that assembly members are listening as we're discussing, and I'm kind of horrified that I keep hearing arguments being made for why we shouldn't be funded. We should be funded, and this should be funded, and this is a need. We're not ignoring that it's a need. We're saying very clearly in an open meeting, this is a need, and we would like for it to be funded, not from our fund balance. I'm kind of shocked. I would love to vote on this and not undermine ourselves.
Could I call the question?
I'm going to make one more statement, and then I think we're wrapping up anyway. I feel that this is a convoluted way to make an ask that we can ask without doing this. We can make the ask regardless of if we change our transportation subsidy amount. We can tell this same story without being disingenuous with our expenditures, which that's essentially what this does. I don't think when members are expressing concerns like that they are making accusations that other members aren't being aren't student focused or don't have positive intent. We can have positive intent but still disagree. So I take issue with those statements. You know, I don't, if I'm sitting in the seat of an assembly member, I don't know that this would persuade me in any way other than to, you know, perhaps get confused. So I'm extremely concerned with this. I don't think it's going to have the result that's intended, and it feels like the intent is not actually about the budget, but about persuasive arguments. Is there any more comments, discussion from board members?
I believe it's a point of order. The question, or we've asked to call the question.
Thank you. The question has been called. We have to vote on the call, so it is not debatable. Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote on the motion to call the question?
Colonel Campbell.
Yes.
Miss Charlie has left the meeting and Mr. Wade has left the meeting. Mrs. Hull?
Yes.
Miss Julian?
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Doran?
No.
Miss Hewitt?
No.
Miss Maple?
Yes.
Mr. Burgess?
No.
Thank you. Motion carried.
All right, that brings us back to the main motion. I believe at this point,
Excuse me, point of order.
yes.
It brings us to the amendment that we have to vote on. That was the.
Oh,
that
thank
was
you.
just-
Yes, correct. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay. Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote on the amendment?
Colonel Campbell?
Yes.
Miss Julian?
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Doran?
No.
Miss Hewitt?
No.
Miss Maple?
Yes.
Mrs. Hull?
Yes.
Mr. Burgess?
No.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you. All right, now that brings us back to the main motion. I believe we've discussed all of those areas that were highlighted last night as things that we weren't quite agreed on, except for SALTJA.
I move to amend. I move to amend the other revenue.
Members are reminded that they need to be recognized by the chair prior to speaking. Miss Julian.
Yes, I move to amend the fund balance utilization by decreasing it by $1.2 million.
Second.
Ms. Julian, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, I think I've already explained it. Thank you.
Any board discussion? Mr. Doran.
Just procedural thing so that when we get to the end of this, we have to balance the budget when we get to the end. So basically, if we have any surplus, it would automatically first come out of the fund balance, unless we changed one of the other revenues. So as we go forward, whatever we wind up with the final number, that's basically what we would wind up doing. Am I correct on that?
Mr. DeGraw.
Yeah, that's correct. So whatever, if, for an example, if the ticker ended up at a positive 200,000, you could just naturally allow that to reduce the fund balance utilization by that same amount. So you're correct, Mr. Doran.
So could I make a suggestion that we can, and I don't want to make a motion of this, I just want to put it on the table, that we table this amendment to finish any other areas, and I'm thinking particularly you had mentioned Salter. I was going to ask, we hadn't addressed that one yet, or the supplies, regular instruction supplies, I think was the only other area that I had on my checklist. But if
Yes, I would support tabling that.
okay, so I'll move to table the fund balance discussion as just amendment put forth to the end of our budget process.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to table. I don't believe this is not debatable, is that correct? Motion to table. Doesn't really matter. I don't think anyone wants to debate anyway. All right, Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote on the motion to table the amendment?
Okay, Mr. Wade, Colonel Campbell, and Miss Charlie are all out of the meeting now. Mr. Dorn,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
was that yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Miss Maple,
No.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Ms. Maple.
Thank you. I just would like to remind the board that the concept, the reason that Ms. Julian was initially going to make these as one motion was so that the 1.2 is not now spent. And so if it's not reflected there, I get that. I get why we moved it to the end because it might be a different amount, but I just want us all to keep that present of mind that this doesn't, based on that intention, the will of the board can do whatever, but that with that intention, that 1.2, don't touch it. I hope.
Mr. DeGraw.
Thank you, President Burgess. Yeah, so to that point, you might think, just a suggestion, you might start thinking of the new break even, zero as 1.2 million in a surplus to that point exactly. So 1.2 million might be not telling you what to assume, but that's what you would think based on those comments, and I agree with those.
So I think based on Mr. Doran's comments moments ago, I don't necessarily think we even have to vote on the fund balance utilization. I think it's clear that the budget needs to be balanced. The assumption is that will be reduced to zero once we get through.
Okay, just point of order, so when we get there, the motion is on the table. We will need, I agree, actually, we didn't really need a motion, but since it was, and it's fine, there's no problem with the motion.
Correct.
But we will have to vote on it. We could amend it to whatever the dollar amount is, 1.2 plus. So, but that'll just be a procedural thing.
Okay. We are on the main motion. Ms. Maple.
Thanks. To shift to Salcha, I move, sorry, I'm trying to scroll to it. I have what I want selected. I move to restore one FTE elementary teacher, and I'm saying what's already there, aren't I?
Possibly.
Never mind. I don't have a motion because I
should be there on this.
I'm okay on that one. Sorry.
No. Okay. I think we do, because that was one of the ones that we didn't have general consensus on. I don't believe so.
Then I move to restore 1 FTE elementary teacher and 1.5 FTE sped teacher. Thank you. Madam Chair.
Second. Sorry, Audra.
Mr. Dorn.
Okay.
Or actually, let me just double check with the maker of the motion. Would you like to speak to your motion, Ms. Maple?
No, I think I touched on it enough yesterday. I'd be interested to hear what others think.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dorn.
So I'll support this, vote in support of this. I do encourage that I recognize there's a need there. I like the idea that we're just adding a teacher without specifying at this point how they best could use it, but that they really take the opportunity to working with administration to develop a, for lack of a better term, I'm going to use a remote site model that may help both Saltra and also options for us in the future. But
Dr. Minert?
To that point, I guess we would need clarity from the board that this is specifically an elementary teacher. We haven't talked a lot about that expansion to the middle school, but currently that is a K-5 school in the eyes of the state. You know, when I think about an expansion to the middle school, it does offer a lot more. It presents itself with different challenges than just adding an additional elementary teacher. And so I'm very supportive of the add of an elementary teacher, not as supportive of an add for a middle school to expand the scope of what they're already doing. I think the addition of an elementary teacher really provides them an opportunity to provide an even stronger education for their K-5 students in that building.
Mr. Dorn.
okay, just speaking to that point, I'm comfortable with that. I mean, and in terms of my suggestion that, and if it's amenable to the board as a whole, that we actually get a design, because there was a major shift without any much planning time. So they did the best they can with the support of the administration. But understanding that some options might be more problematic unless it's in the big picture and it needs to be figured out. So within that model, it's certainly open currently or wherever. So basically, I'm pretty amenable to what you're saying, or I am amenable.
Question to administration: would building administration be able to use that teaching position in any way they choose? For example, you know, we have the option here to add back a PE or general music teacher, half FTE. If we just leave it at elementary teacher, does that give the administrator the leeway to use that as a PE or general music teacher if they see fit?
I think if that's the intent of the board, to keep it open-ended in a remote school model, you know, it can work a lot of different ways that the individual classroom teachers teach PE, or it might be a combination that this newly hired person teaches half day in a classroom with a certain pull-out model and then does PE. And so I think the flexibility, if the board allows the flexibility, I think that's fine. I would think, though, that we would want some general education happening so that the person that we hire into the position can also help with our reading achievement and, you know, our math focus going forward.
Mr. Dorn?
Yeah, I see it, you know, if you want to put it in the elementary, and I guess I was thinking just teacher, because whatever they're teaching, however best meets their needs, I could also see if at least put in the hopper, but again, administration, talking with the staff there, the community there, I see a lot of flexibility. It might be where, having been a principal in a small school with a teaching load, I was able to have some time to just dedicate, with another teacher covering those teaching duties, so that I think giving flexibility to my level of support to this is saying, give the flexibility. They need help. Went through a tremendous change this year, have worked on that. So I think I would be very hopeful that there would be the flexibility to say, what is those needs, and working with you as and your staff in terms of saying what fits in the long term as well as immediate needs.
Right, I'll just say, I had intended to come back to Salcha and add a classroom teacher and potentially that elementary PE and general music. Based on the discussion and the addition of district-wide classroom tutors and student behavior support technicians, I don't think I need to include those specifically here at Salcha, but I would like, before we get to our approved budget, more information from administration on how those positions are going to be used and what Salcha in particular will look like. And I'll again throw support behind Mr. Doran's request to look at what kind of model we actually want to shoot for out there more specifically. Mr. Doran.
Okay, and I just want to note that the amendment was a teacher 1.0 teacher and a 0.5 sped teacher. So
Yes. Any additional discussion from the board on the amendment? Not seeing any. Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote? A yes vote will add an elementary teacher with the intent to be flexible, I believe, and a 0.5 FTE sped teacher. A no vote will leave Salcha staffing status quo. Ms. Richardson.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Mr. Doran.
The only other area that I had that we had talked about last night without consensus was regular instruction material supplies. It's in the budget for 25%, I believe, in the proposed budget, and some were suggesting 50%. So, but we did not have a consensus on that.
Ms. Julian?
Is the 50% increase included in tonight's?
Yes, it was part of the baseline, but yeah, I think if we're being consistent and there wasn't consensus, I think we might be looking for a motion.
Okay, I'll move to invest 50% increase in regular instruction supply budget at elementary, middle, and high schools to what's selected tonight, which is $65,000.
Second.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
Nope. I think we talked about it a lot last night. I'm supportive of this.
Mr. Doran.
Okay, the question that was hanging last night was to administration in terms of, I know we've been reducing supplies over the years. Where does the 25 and the 50% bring us in comparison to what we've cut in the last several years? And I know you had mentioned that you would have to look that up.
Yeah, and we don't have an exact number. We did look back in FY22, we made a significant district-wide reduction in supplies, which equaled 900,000 district-wide. And we just looked at what the impact would have been to elementary and secondary school discretionary budgets. And this, wouldn't fully restore those dollar amounts. So we're still underwater compared to where we've been historically. I think that might have been the information you were kind of looking for, Mr. Doran. I don't have an exact number, but we're not restoring beyond where we've been historically.
Okay, and that's helpful. So, and that's why I was leaning towards 25%. Yes, we need to move up. The 50% is not a lot when you put it across all the schools.
Correct.
And the percentages are based on current supply levels,
Correct.
not the ones we cut over the years. So
Correct.
I'm comfortable making progress towards, then I'm comfortable making progress towards those costs of supplies. I know the difference that can make in a school and to classrooms. So I will support the motion.
Anything else from the board? Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote on the amendment? A yes vote will result in an investment of 50% increase in instruction supplies at all grade levels.
Miss Julian,
Yes.
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Yes.
Mr. Doran,
Yes.
Miss Hewitt,
Yes.
Miss Maple,
Yes.
Mrs. Hull,
Yes.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
We are on the main motion once more. We do have a tabled motion as well. I would need a motion to remove that from the table. If we have, as was suggested before, let's do that last. But just wanted to remind folks that that's out there. Anything else from the board? Not seeing any hands.
Move to move the amendment regarding fund balance from the table.
Second.
I think we can do this without objection. Without objection, we'll remove that from the table and we'll back on the motion regarding fund balance utilization. Ms.
So,
Julian.
Thank you. I'd like to, is it possible for me to amend my own amendment?
Yes.
I'd like to amend my amendment by by decreasing fund balance utilization to zero out our budget precisely. So instead of a $1.6 million surplus, the intention is that we zero it out.
Mr. DeGroat.
Thank you. So as the board can see, we don't have balancing act set up to zero that out exactly, but it'll be somewhere in between those two numbers to hit it zero. Would be the number as it stands now is going to be the ticker rounds. So it's somewhere between 1.55 million and 1.65 million. It's rounding to 1.6. So we would grab that exact number, the effect of the amended motion, and zero out that top line ticker number. But unfortunately, I'm unable to represent that on the screen exactly.
Any discussion from the board? Not seeing any. Mr. Dorn.
Okay. I just want to state I'm conflicted on this, but I'll be voting no because I do feel that um, the fact of the matter is that anything um, that we don't need on the expenditure side comes off the fund balance, but I am very concerned about the 1.2 that is a recognized expenditure at some point. So.
Anything else from the board? Seeing none. Ms. Richardson, will you please call the vote?
Can you tell me who seconded her amendment?
Originally, I think it was Ms. Carol Hubbard that seconded and then it was put on the table.
Right.
The
and
motion
then
to
she
remove it from the
amended
table.
The amendment, and did somebody second that?
I will second.
Oh, okay. That was Ms. Carol Hubbard.
Okay, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry. Okay. Ms. Hewitt.
Want to just procedure? Do you want to rule that the amendment will carry the amendment to the amendment will carry the main amendment?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Dorn, for that reminder. So this is a vote on the amendment to the amendment. If we approve the amendment to the amendment, it will carry the main motion as well, or the main amendment. No, not the whole budget, just the fund balance motion.
Mm. Okay, Ms. Hewitt?
Sorry, just for clarification, it's just to zero out the fund balance utilization? Or to remove the 1.2?
The motion on the table is to make the fund balance utilization zero, or well, not zero, to reduce it until the budget is balanced is the motion that's on the table.
Correct. And it.
Yes. Then.
Okay. That was a yes from Ms. Hewitt. Ms.
Thank
Richardson.
you. Ms. Maple?
Yes.
Mrs. Hull?
Yes.
Ms. Julian?
Yes.
Ms. Carol Hubbard?
Yes.
Mr. Doran?
No.
Mr. Burgess?
No.
Thank you. Motion carried.
All right. That brings us back to the main motion. I believe we are, it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Board, but that we are done with amendments. So I would suggest apologies, Mr. DeGraw, go ahead.
You
okay,
finish
I
your
was going to
thought?
suggest that we pause and reconvene tomorrow. At this point in time, that'll give administration the chance to put together their final resolution, which we will vote on, which will carry the budget. And we'll give the rest of us a well-earned break before continuing the rest of our agenda tomorrow.
Do you want a motion to reconvene tomorrow? What time do we want?
We have it scheduled for 6 p.m. tomorrow.
We have it scheduled for 6 p.m., but the board has flexibility in reconvening. So
I'd be fine with 5:30 personally.
So I'll move that we reconvene tonight's regular meeting to tomorrow, Wednesday, March 18th at 5:30.
Second.
All right. Without objection, we are in recess until tomorrow at 5:30.